Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto Phenex falls in love with Rias part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto was many things: unpredictable, reckless, a knucklehead and stubborn beyond normal conception, just to name a few. What he wasn't though was patient. So, at least in his mind, it was no surprise that roughly 10 minutes into the political discussions of his parents and younger siblings that he was thinking of something more interesting. That something would of course be the training of his abilities. Rovo had been a great help with this, having shown him some of the more advanced theories regarding their aerokinesis. Then again, his ability to zone out could be because of a lack of sleep from his studying last night. He tried his best to stifle a yawn, but the quiet giggle from Ravel told him that she at least had noticed. "I'm sorry dear, are we boring you?" his mother questioned. Now he was smart enough to know how he should answer, but that didn't stop him from thinking about it for a moment. "No mother, I'm just tired," he replied quickly and spared a glance at his father, who hid a small smile. Lord Phenex cleared his throat as he adjusted in his chair. "Raven, I don't think that Naruto and Ravel really need to be here for this. Let them go play." His mother did not seem to take overly fond to the idea as she stared the three of them down for a few moments before letting her shoulders sag. "Fine. But when they misbehave in social events, I want you to remember your lackadaisical manner in which you handle their discipline." Naruto waited just long enough for his father to wave them off before he jumped out of his chair, leaving poor Riser to his fate. He could guess what the conversation was about anyway. The Gremry heiress had started to publicly kick up a fuss about being arranged to marry Riser. Now, Naruto loved his younger brother and sister, but even he had to admit that Riser was handling this whole thing very badly. There was a small cough from his side and he turned to see Ravel looking as prim and proper as their mother always does. "I hope you haven't forgotten your promise?" He had. His mind quickly jumped into overdrive trying to think of his previous agreement. He studied her for a moment, letting his recent interactions quickly spring forth. "You wanted help with flying practice, right?" he guessed, remembering a brief conversation about it a few days ago. Going by the small nod of her head, he figured he guessed right. "Well, I do have to meet Seek soon, so if you don't mind going out in public, we can do it on the way." There was a brief look of panic that came across her tiny features before she gave a small cough and righted herself. "There should be no problem with that. As a proud member of the Phenex line, it is only right that I should grace the civilians with my majestic flying abilities." "Sure, let's see if you can get off the ground today first, huh?" She pouted and let out a small whine. He ruffled her hair and moved them into the yard. He had to admit his family had a good hand when it came to decoration. Then again, most devil families did. The open paths that were lightly adorned with stone features or flowers, just enough to be eye-catching but not enough to assault the senses. He stopped guiding Ravel and took a few steps to stand in front of her, facing the youngest Phenex sibling, before rolling his shoulders forward and letting the flaming wings push out of his back. Ravel wasted no time in copying his actions, and he was glad that she could. Having to explain it to Riser was enough. "Good stuff, now let's start slow. I'll drag you up and you just gotta keep yourself balanced, okay?" She nodded and he reached for her outstretched hands before lifting them both into the air with strong, solid flaps. He also got the privilege of watching her face scrunch up as she tried to get her wings to keep her stable, which was also an interesting sight. They were flapping like an injured bird, erratically and frenzied in an attempt to get some wind under them. "Hey, take it easy there or you'll wear yourself out. Try to do what I'm doing, long slow flaps." His words got Ravel to open her eyes and absorb his form for a few moments before nodding and slowing her attempts at staying in the air. Part of him was jealous at how quickly she picked this all up. It took him weeks to be able to properly control his wings. Maybe Ruvo was just a bad teacher, yet he'd go with that. Sikvera Agars was in a difficult position. She was not a romantic like Rias, so when she was introduced to her husband-to-be, she thought little of it. When he found out about her, a collection of miniature appreciations of mechanical engineering and theory crafting, and actually encouraged her, well, she agreed to the proposal. There was no problem for her in putting out a child or two of Phenex blood if she was able to help both clans while still living her life as she wanted. Then again, it would appear that she got the much better option of the Phenex siblings. From what Rias had said, Riser was nothing like Naruto. Though she could just be exaggerating, Sikvera knew she was prone to do so. The difficult position though was that Rias had locked herself in Sikvera's room and was not letting anyone in. Which more than likely included Naruto, who said he had a present for her. Now she could just kick Rias out, but that didn't sit too well with her, not with the red-headed heiress currently crying into her limited edition plush Gundam MK2. Sikvera could try bribing her with anime or manga. She tapped her chin, and though there had to be something she was hooked on at the moment. There was a knock on the door and she paled. Naruto was here with another member of the Phenex family, she could tell that much. Though she didn't get a chance to respond as Rias quickly spoke up. "We're busy, go away." Sikvera heard something that sounded like "wait here" before Naruto loudly announced he was coming in. Rias tried some faint kind of protest, saying that they were indecent, but that didn't stop him. His messy blonde head of hair poked in before those deep blue eyes looked over the room. Sikvera had a faint smile on her face as she spoke. "And what would you have done if we were actually naked?" "Probably still come in." He questioned with a shrug. See her pointed look and the horrified one from Rias, he continued. Well, Seeks, you're my fiancé, so we're going to see each other naked whether we want to or not, and if Rias was getting changed I figured you would have locked the door. Fair point. As you can see, my bed is already occupied, so sadly you cannot lament the woes of your studious life on it to me today. She saw him crack a faint smile before holding up a bag. For me? Yeah, it's meant to be some super limited test run or something, and I figured you'd be busy with the announcements, so yeah. He finished lamely and handed the bag over to seem to look at Rias for a few moments, and Sikvera quirked her brow before he sighed and rubbed the back of his head. Rias, what do you want? The redhead near bit. Not a good start. Then again, both of them had a very short temper, so this could be quite explosive. She spared a glance around her room. Nothing was safe. She had best mentally prepare herself. Look, you're causing a bit of a stir. I can speak to my family about laying off of it for a while if that helps you. I don't know. Process it all? Seeks watched as Rias looked up towards her blonde buffoon and gave a faint nod. That'd be nice, thanks. So we're all friends? She pushed, though, watching Rias crank her chin up, and Naruto give a nervous laugh showed her answer. Thanks for stopping by. But I kind of need to, you know? He gave her a nod and placed his hands in his pockets. Yeah, I get it. Oh, I'm going to be heading to Kyoto on some business, so if you want anything special let me know. Sikvera tilted her head. He sighed and thought about it for a moment before responding, I'm sure I'll think of something. With that he gave another faint laugh and left, closing the door behind him. She heard a muffled conversation between him and Ravel before she felt them leaving. With her attention back she focused back to Rias, who was giving her the most pointed of stares. What? You two seem to get along well. We understand that we each have hobbies that the other cares very little about. He is happy doing his thing and I'm fine doing my own. Rias craned her head to the side. Trade me? No chance. You sure? Very. Sikvera let out a sigh. You could try to work out a deal with Riser? Rias puffed her cheeks out. I doubt he'll listen. You never know if you don't try? She watched Rias sag a little into the pillow fort she was in the middle of making before Naruto came. Wait, she paused. I thought we weren't allowed into Kyoto? Sikvera shrugged. Maybe he got permission after the vampire thing in Tokyo? Vampire thing? Some old vampire showed up and turned a handful of people, and the church was about to get called after the town's exorcist nearly died or something. I probably should have paid more attention now that I think about it. Lucky. What? Rias poked her head out from the pillows and looked at her. I said he's lucky. I want to study in Japan. As do I. Then why did you go with him? Sikvera gave Rias a flat stare. Because I have to look after a bratty childhood friend throwing a temper tantrum. Plus, I'm not too sure I'm ready to go on some long holiday with him just yet. The day visits are enough for now. Rias huffed and moved some pillows to block the stare before retreating into her fort, causing Sikvera to sigh at her friend's antics. Naruto rubbed at the back of his neck as he stood before the torii gates. He had tried to tell the Tengu guards that he was expected. That didn't really stop them surrounding him with their black steel spears. It was a tense situation and Naruto wasn't really the best with those types. They continued to surround him as they waited for the Minister of Domestic Affairs, and he started to play with a ball of fire between his hands. He threw it around his body and had it float in the air for a few moments. He noticed some yokai children watching from behind a tree and thought to give them a little show of magic. Thankfully it was not too much longer before a cattered man came out with his hands between his sleeves. He looked at the situation and gave a small laugh. I would apologize for the display, but it does not seem to bother you. Naruto clapped his hands together, and the fire turned into tens of little swallows that quickly flew towards the children and exploded into a tiny shower of fireworks. He watched them giggle and run away before looking back to the man. It's fine. Our factions aren't on the best of terms, so I get it. Curious as to why I was called, though. No one really wants to explain that, mister? Zupan. And yes, it is a delicate matter, one which we aren't too proud to admit. I do just have to confirm that you are Naruto Phenex, correct? Naruto gave a small nod to the question and Zupan returned a small chuckle. I thought you might be a bit older. Yeah, I get that a bit. The Tengu are coming with us, I guess? Believe it or not, Lord Naruto, they are for your protection. Times have been tense. Naruto nodded. The Nekashu incident had severely strained relations with the yokai. I understand. I would like to offer my prayers if time allows. Zupan took a small step. It seems he wasn't expecting that. Naruto wasn't too sure. I heard you were honorable. I guess it is just different to experience it. The conversation lulled a bit as they started to move through the torii, and Naruto could feel the piercing glares of those around him. His race had a lot to answer for, that was sure, but he didn't have the political power to investigate what happened, and he didn't know if he ever would. He didn't have too much of an interest in it like Riser and Ravel, nor was he drawn to raiding games like Roval. Honestly, he felt out of place among his siblings. More than the name anyway. He had asked to change that himself after he started having these strange dreams. Naruto had sounded better and felt more natural, he guessed. Their group paused as they came to what seemed to be some kind of prison. Guards were keeping a vigilant watch, and they were armed with more than just spears. He looked to Zupan. I'm not under arrest or anything, am I? Zupan took a moment before widening his eyes and waving his hands. No, my dear boy. I really should have explained. No, there is someone inside that we are having difficulty with, and they seem to respond to your energy. My energy? Well, the guards that directly interacted with you appear to have had a calming effect on the prisoner, but that effect is wearing off. We just want to confirm some things before we do anything further, if that is okay, of course. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Sure, so long as I'm not going to end up in one of those cells myself. Haha, not yet, my boy. Naruto paused and eyed the man who just gave him a wide smile before the group started to move again. They entered the building, and the first thing that Naruto noticed was the large number of horned individuals behind bars. He figured they must be Oni. From what he had read, they were not the most helpful in trying to have a peaceful life, but they were strong as all get out. He shook his head and refocused his attention as they came to the end of a corridor and saw a dimly lit cell. The occupant seemed to be missing, but with careful enough hearing there was a breath coming from inside the cell. She is playing this game again, Zupan muttered as he took a step forward and lightly tapped one of the bars. Come on out, you have a visitor. There was a faint tap of flesh hitting the stone floor. Naruto knelt down to get to eye level as he saw a pair of gold-slit eyes boring into him from the darkness. What's her name? He questioned as he put his hand between the bars, ignoring the pleas and screams of the guards as they rushed forward. He felt a tug on his arm as pale flesh appeared in front of him and ripped back, pulling it off in a fluid motion. The guards pulled him back and he gave a scream as they started to panic, and the Oni from earlier started to roar in laughter. Zupan looked ready to blow a gasket, and through it all Naruto heard the creature in the cage chomping on his arm. He waited a few moments, and as the guards got ready to enter the cell he started to laugh. Hey, are you okay, Lord Naruto? Naruto reined in his laughs and shook out his stump of an arm. I'm a phoenix. And like it was waiting for that statement, blue flames erupted from his stump and formed a brand new arm, shirt and all perfectly attached. He gave it a twirl before waving it at them. That was a bit odd. No harm. Oh, thank the gods. I did not want to have to deal with that backlash. As for her name, Hinkawa Tsubasa. Naruto nodded and knelt back down to eye level. So, Hinkawa, does my arm taste good? Sorry if you were expecting blood. There was a small shuffling of feet before a gnawed arm was dropped on the other side of the bar. Shortly after, the pale features of a 15-year-old girl came into view. He looked back at the guards when he saw her lack of clothing, and they motioned to the pile of it in the corner. Her long white hair nearly came down to the ground, and slowly she crouched across from Naruto, the two white ears atop her head twitching at the noise in the prison. You are what I was smelling, Nyahaha. Zupan says you were more relaxed when you could smell me. What's up with that? Hinkawa tilted her head from side to side and her nose twitched a few times as she took in his scent. He guessed, you're warm and full of life. Zupan made a weird sound and Naruto turned to face him. Is everything okay? And do you have what you need? The cattered male gave a quick nod. Yes. We might have to do some tests, but it is possible that she could have a strong connection to energies. In her case, they might play with her emotions. It is one of the early warning signs of senjutsu. Warning signs? I thought senjutsu was meant to be super good for you guys. Zupan lowered his head a little bit as he looked at the ground. It might be best to talk about this outside. They all made to move as a hand quickly grabbed his and held it in a vice-like grip. He looked back to see a hint of fear in those golden eyes of hers. Zupan, how would you feel about releasing Hinkawa into my care? The yokai let out a small groan as he rubbed his face. I was hoping to save on paperwork. Naruto though laughed at his plight, and was thankful he didn't have to deal with any of that yet. The process of having Hinkawa released was faster and less troublesome as opposed to the process of getting her dressed. It was after the third time of her tearing apart her shirt that he started to question if he should continue to bother, but then the thought of his mother seeing him come home with a topless woman froze him. He wasn't quite sure how she would react. Would she be happy? Probably not. Would she try to fry him alive? That was a possibility. Thus it was his current goal in life to get Hinkawa dressed. Can we please get you dressed? He would not admit it aloud, but he was down to pleading. He also would certainly not tell Roval about pleading for a woman to put on clothes he wasn't sure he would live through that shame. Nope, not gonna, she called as she rolled around on the floor playing with his arm. It was watching her playful nature that caused an idea to spark within him. He took off his shirt and tossed it towards her, watching as she put it on without fuss. Inwardly he sighed as she did the buttons up and sniffed the collar deeply. He took his pants off and thankfully there was no protest as she put them on. With a flick of his wrist he summoned a new pair of slacks and a white button-up shirt for himself. She seemed happy enough, but he could see this becoming a problem quickly. Zupan gave them a curious look when he returned. Look, I don't want to talk about it. Is she good to go? Yes. Just sign here and she'll be in your custody. If you need anything in the future, do not hesitate to call upon us. Naruto signed the papers and a copy was handed to him. He stuffed it away in one of his pockets and looked to Hinkawa, who was making confetti out of the previous shirts. She lifted it up and blew it in Zupan's face before laughing and hiding behind Naruto. Part of him was starting to regret this, and he knew it was only going to get worse when they went home. He was going to be hounded, he knew that. Thankfully it seemed like things were done with the yokai, so he gathered up her things watching as she clung to him. Well, I guess this is goodbye for now, Zupan. Let me know if you guys need a hand with anything in the future. I'll try my best. They shared a small bow and then Naruto summoned up his clan's crest to take them home. His arrival was met with the usual fuss of the maids then as when they stopped and peered around him at the growth he was carrying. He saw the thoughts pass through their eyes before they all ran off to find his mother. He had to hand it to her, she had trained the maids well, her own little spy network. He knew he had precious moments of peace. He grabbed Hinkawa's hand and quickly led her to his room only to find the entrance barred by his mother. There were a few thoughts that ran through his mind. Firstly, he needed to spend more time with her and figure out how to make a network like her one. Second, just how boned he was going to be. Dining room? He questioned, to which she nodded. He let out a tired sigh and slowly started to lead Hinkawa there. It didn't take overly long for the rest of the family, sans rival, to show and take their normal places. The plush adorning and over-decorative features of the room normally felt welcoming, but now they only seemed to fill him with a sense of foreboding dread that he couldn't wash from his palate. Hinkawa didn't seem to care. She also seemed to have stolen a cooked fish on their trip. He would have to thank the maids when he was done. All eyes were on him. Now I want to start off by saying that I can explain everything. Explain how you brought a cat girl home with you and tamed her in a few hours? This I want to hear, said Rias as he leaned forward a little. His father leaned forward as well. Perhaps for a different reason, but I am also curious, as I believe your mother is also. He didn't need to look in her direction to know a pointed face slowly nodded in affirmation. Okay, well, this is Hinkawa. He motioned to the girl in question, who put her hands up like paws. The yokai of Kyoto found her rampaging through the streets, draining the energy of civilians and yokai alike. He paused and waited for any interjection, but none came, so he continued. They found that she was much more relaxed when some of the guards I had interacted with during the vampire incident were watching her, so they called me to see if it was a coincidence or not. Turns out it isn't. Though she did rip my arm off. He saw Ravel flinch at the thought while Rias and his father held back laughter. His mother was not. She did not appear to have an impressed bone in her body at this moment. The yokai believe that she is starting to access senjutsu, or a mutation could be occurring within her, causing her to experience things like a senjutsu practitioner would. After confirming that my ascent seemed to calm her, we were planning to leave, but Hinkawa didn't want me to go. I couldn't stay, so I asked for her to be released into my care. There will be correspondence between myself on behalf of the Phenex and the yokai of Kyoto on the matter, allowing with home visitations and trips back to Kyoto for both training and checkups. Naruto finished and looked over his family. Everyone seemed somewhat impressed or interested apart from his mother. He reached into his pocket and produced the paper from earlier. I also had a contract made between the two parties. This is our copy, if you want to check over the details yourself. He placed it on the table, and for the first time since his return he saw his mother smile. Good, always make sure to have it in either writing or blood. Plus this should give our family a semblance of standing with the yokai faction to hopefully help restore some faith after that event. And pray tell, what did Sikvera say about all this? His mother questioned. Naruto tilted his head to the side, as did Hinkawa. I didn't ask her? He saw his father roar backwards in laughter while his mother and sister sighed. He looked to Rias, but apparently they were both confused on the subject. You should inform her this instant and find a suitable gift that might alleviate her anger. Naruto shrugged and pulled out his phone. I don't see why, but okay. After a moment he put it away. Done. His mother's jaw dropped as she stood from her seat. Did you just text her that? Yes? He looked to his family for support. His father was laughing harder. Ravel had planted her face into the table, and Rias, well, at least Rias looked as confused as he felt right now. His phone went off and he answered. Oh, hey Seeks, where are you? She bit out, and it was at this point that Naruto thought he might have done something wrong. Naruto? She sounded like she was getting angrier. Stalling was probably not going to work right now. I am at home. In the dining room, he barely got the last bit out before she hung up. A moment later he heard the maids welcome someone, and when he heard her scream for his direction he hung his head. Rias gave a light cough and moved to stand. I don't think this concerns me, so if you don't meet, but was cut off by a sharp look from their mother. On second thought, this is something I should watch carefully so that I don't repeat Naruto's mistake? He looked to Raven for confirmation, and her silent nod was all he needed. The next moment the doors slammed open and Naruto winced. Sikvera gave a brief apology to his parents before she stormed into his face. Now Naruto was not a small man. Approaching 18, he was quite tall for his age and he worked out a fair bit, but under the fiery gaze of Sikvera he felt very, very small. Explain. Now, so he did, everything he had just told his family, and then some. That didn't appear to be enough though, as she was still glaring daggers at him. I didn't think it would bother you? No, of course I would be fine with you adopting some stray cat girl to take home. Why wouldn't I be perfectly okay with some hypersexualized stereotype living with you? This feels like a trick question. Both of them stopped as Hinkawa rested her head on Naruto's shoulder. He could feel the anger coming from Sikvera at this point. Naruto, who is this hussy? If Naruto had more time he would have seen the reaction of shock, awe and downright hysterics from his family. Hussy? Says the harlot hanging off my husband to be's shoulder like a life raft? Naruto was still processing what was happening. How did things go so wrong? What could he have done to prevent this? Well, probably check with Sikvera beforehand. He knew that now. Husband to be? Hinkawa tilted her head for a moment. Nope. Before she chomped down hard on his neck and shoulder. Naruto winced a little in shock. He felt her nails dig into his skin. It was clear that no one was moving her now. My mate. Find your own. Raven cleared her throat, and all attention snapped to her, sans Hinkawa and Sikvera, who seemed more than content to glare at each other. As my son appears to have stupefied himself with his own actions, please allow me to clear up any misunderstandings. Hinkawa, Naruto has promised to wed Sikvera in order to join our clans together. It is an agreement that both of them have the intention of following and have signed such. This does not mean that he cannot take another wife, but you can't be his only wife, or mate if you will. Also, why are you biting my son? Marking territory, Hinkawa said before slowly releasing her bite. Naruto saw her frown as the wound closed up in front of her eyes. He supposed it was better than the gasps he heard from his family. He was ready, they couldn't do much worse, could they? He was already in Sikvera's shit books, and he was pretty sure his mother's. His father leaned forward again, all mirthful laughter gone now. Naruto, my boy, are you aware your flames have turned blue? Naruto gave a small shrug. It seemed to happen after Hinkawa ripped off my arm. She did what? He may have left that part out of the explanation to Sikvera. You are in so much trouble when we're done here, Naruto. She gave him a very pointed stare before looking back to his father. Does that mean that he is the Azure? Rovan nodded. I believe so. We had all thought it would be Ruvel, so we didn't really teach the others about it. That appears to have been a mistake. Thinking on it though, it all makes sense. Your inability to use aerokinesis, your dreams, and your mastery over song and hellfire. Song? Sikvera questioned with a raised brow. Oh yes, Naruto is quite a fine singer. I shall keep that information for later. This changes everything. Rovan slammed his fists down and stood up. From tomorrow on I will personally instruct you from my grandfather's journals. I have to inform the Mao and Ruvel. Rovan rounded the table and grasped Naruto's hands. This means big things for us, boy. Raven will prepare a ball where we announce it to the public. Sikvera, I hope you'll attend? Naruto looked between the two and he caught her gaze and the smirk that wormed over her face. Of course, Lord Phenex. I wouldn't let my dear husband to be go through such a thing alone. Okay, can we have like a timeout? Naruto called, getting attention back to him. I think 3 people here understand what is happening. Can the rest of us get an explanation? Sikvera walked forward and gently pinched his cheek. It just means that you've become the hope of the underworld is all. No pressure. The next month was filled with a mixture of pain from having the clan's full, unedited history drilled into Naruto and facing the full torrent of his father's emotion-filled training. He had a fair idea now why his family was so excited. His great-grandfather, Ruxarian, was the first Azure Phoenix, also the first Phoenix, but that was ancient history. It was said that he did not need to shed his tears to heal, but rather the spreading of his wings would remove harm that had been inflicted. The journal said it was controllable. The journals didn't say how to. The journals that his father used held actually had very little in them to help with unlocking these abilities. They mostly just contained the abilities and what they were able to do. They were all very impressive, but now he was stuck with learning how to use them, or get them to work even. The only thing that seemed to be innate was his resistance to light-based weapons and holy artifacts. It was not an immunity, as even after holding a silver crucifix for a time it would start to burn, or even reading the Bible would start to give him a serious headache after a dozen or so pages. But it wasn't immediate, which was pretty neat. The journals also stated that this feature was somewhat hereditary, as the earlier Phoenix clan members still held a slight level of resistance to holy powers. He wasn't super heavy into politics like his younger siblings, but even he knew that he was in danger. He had a plan, though the only problem was that it relied on Sikvera saying yes, and she was not exactly willing to talk to him in private at the moment. Yes, when they were summoned by their clans it was a different story, but just the 2 of them meeting up outside of that. Not a chance. That was not the only relationship that was strained by all of this. Naruto was named heir apparent and Ruvel heir presumptive, as was Riser. They seemed to handle it okay, but there was some tension there that Naruto wasn't sure how to handle. Then there was all this surge of activity had him spending even less time with Revel, because just about any free moment he had was devoted to keeping Hinkawa in check or trying to get a hold of Sikvera. He wanted to run away. He was not proud of the thought, but everyone kept placing these new expectations on him. Everyone was telling him what he would do, the things he would bring to their race, to their faction, to their family. He just wanted to spend time with his own. He wanted to do silly bickering matches with Sikhs again. He wanted to flop onto her bed and pointlessly moan about the work he was giving himself, while she offered half an ear and even less in words of comfort. It was suffocating. He paused and looked around. A portion wanted to curse himself. He was standing atop the lake where Ruvel had taught him to fly. The damn prick had steamed it so he'd boil a little each time he fell. Now though, without trying, he stood atop the surface. It was an odd feeling, so familiar and yet so distant. He let go of the feeling and felt the water rush past him as he sunk. He closed his eyes and listened as his heart started to slow before stretching himself out and floating to the top on his back. It's a heavy weight, isn't it? Naruto nodded and opened his eyes to see Ruvel standing next to him looking down. Do you want it back? Not a chance. Hell, you've got it worse than I ever did. Gee, thanks. Roval let out a small laugh as he took a seat on the water. I feel sorry for you. Sounds like everyone has your life made up for you. Naruto gave a small grunt. Still having those dreams of that isn't you. Just another wonderful part of being the Azure apparently. A gentle silence blew between the two brothers. Both of them just taking in the sky above, this fake sky that was meant to help them relax. Do you want to, talk about them? Naruto spared a glance at Roval. He was still looking up at the stars above, still maintaining a relaxed position, but he asked a question that no one had yet. He looked to be almost indifferent to everything going on around them, like none of it concerned him. Not much to talk about. I'm an orphan in some kind of village. Looks partly military, and the school reflects that. They're trying to teach us to be ninja, but I keep failing. Roval let out a small laugh. Not even able to catch a break in your dreams, eh? Naruto though shook his head. No one expects anything of me, and I kind of like it. There I want to be a protector, and here I want to run away from it. It doesn't make any sense. You want to run away? I shouldn't have told you that. The quiet came back, and this time Naruto felt like it was strangling him. He wanted to know what Roval would say. What would his brother do? Would he dissuade him? Would he tell their mother? Would he tie him up to stop him from leaving? Why don't you? Roval finally questioned. Naruto eyed him again. Whatever he was expecting, that wasn't it. I mean, I did. I spent a couple of years running away from it all. Surzex did too. I think a lot of heirs do. I mean, Surzex started a full-on civil war during his stint. Mum would be furious. She'll be angry no matter what you do. True. I'd wait until after the ball if possible. Naruto rose a brow. Why then? Roval gave a small shrug. I mean, if you want to make Mum have wasted all her time on something, go for it. But good luck trying to run from that. Fair point. Naruto hummed for a little bit before letting out a groan. What about Sikvera? Should be up to her? I mean, I would offer to whisk her away on a romantic runaway from responsibilities, but give her a choice. She's a smart girl, much too good for you. Thanks, you bastard. Roval stood up and a quick burst of flames rolled over him, destroying any water before he started to walk away. Oh yeah, before I forget. Hankawa is tearing the castle apart looking for you. Mum's livid. Naruto lost his balance and fell under the water, causing a laughing Roval to vanish in the distance as he righted himself. He climbed onto the top of the water and rolled his shoulders and called his wings out. He spent a moment watching them sway back and forth in the water's reflection. He took a breath in and flew straight to the castle. He caught sight of a white blur running through the gardens with a cadre of maids. He landed in the gardens and watched the blur rush towards him. He held his arms out and felt her lithe frame jump into them as she stretched and let out a long purr. Where'd you go, Nyahaha? I just needed to cool off for a bit. Did you behave? Of course. The maids caught up, some of them panting as they bowed towards him. Thank you, milord. Miss Hankawa was rather distraught when she couldn't find you. I looked everywhere. She did indeed, one of them deadpanned. He gave a small nod before lightly bowing his head. I'm sorry, and thank you for looking after her for me. It's our pleasure, milord, they chorused. Naruto saw a few of them blushing. He was well aware that the serving staff knew of what he was. Some had become much more friendly with him over the past month. He was pretty grateful to Hankawa in that regard. She at least kept them out of his room while he was asleep. He turned his attention back to the bundle of energy in his arms. So, ready for some training? Her smile stretching and becoming more feral was the only answer he needed. Sikvera was resting her head on her desk, watching her phone slowly vibrate its way towards the edge. It was Naruto calling again. She was still unsure if she would answer or not. She figured if it started to fall she would, if it didn't she wouldn't. She watched it teeter on the edge before it stopped ringing and she let out the breath she'd been holding. Was she still mad? Yes, most definitely, but she was not blind. Because of the contract between their families, she was well in the know of what was happening. Well, at least what her father deemed she needed to hear, and Naruto was under a lot of pressure. He'd been named heir apparent, along with the news of him being the Azure slowly starting to spread along the gossip mill. Her father had already informed her that she'd need to take a more definitive position beside him. She knew that, even if only a minor boon for a devil to be resistant to light-based weapons and energies would have every creature in the underworld with a slit between their legs lining up to try and bed him. It also helped that he was good-looking, kind, stupid as hell, but kind. He was moronic, downright dense, but she wanted him to just flop onto her bed and scream about the injustice of books again, and she didn't want to see his face anymore. It didn't help that every time she worked up the courage to see him she thought of that cat, not to mention the rumors she was hearing. Apparently the thing was damn near feral when Naruto wasn't around, lashing out at everyone and everything until it found him again, and strong enough to get Lady Phenex to step in a few times. But when she was touching Naruto, her Naruto, the damned cat was as tame as could be, not to mention that Rias was still bemoaning her engagement to Riser. It had been a month, and she was still whining about it. Sometimes Sikvera couldn't believe how childish that girl was, though maybe that's why she was so damned cute. It had been so bad that she hadn't built any models in nearly a week. She was just feeling so listless. Her phone started to ring again, and she huffed but reached for it. It wasn't Naruto, it was, "Hello, Lady Seraphal? Hello, Sikvera. All young devils and their peerages are to report to Lilith Town Hall for an emergency gathering. This message will repeat. Sikvera hung up and dusted herself off before giving a small groan. Everyone she was trying to avoid would be there. She poked her head out of the room and told one of the maids to inform her father. She watched the young girl run, properly of course, down the hall before withdrawing, letting out a yawn and getting dressed. A handful of minutes later she appeared in the town hall with a long dress covering her frame. She had allowed her father to place pieces of armor in it, but only in such a way that they did not restrict her movements. She had to admit that he had done a good job. Sikvera adjusted her glasses. She was not late, but she was by no stretch the first to arrive. Off in the corner she could see Naruto and that damned cat. She had half a mind to march up to him and wipe that stupid smile he had. He wasn't smiling. She paused. He was always smiling. Even if it was nervous or an awkward situation, she had never seen him not smile. Now that she took the time, yes, he was properly dressed, as her future husband should be, but he looked terrible. Apparently he and Rias had been briefed on the situation. They were talking about formations for chasing someone. Sikvera was about to head towards them when Sona and Rias grabbed her arms and dragged her away to another corner. They started to question why everyone was called and introduced their queens to her, but she couldn't take her eyes from him. Was he tired? Was he eating enough? She didn't know the answer to either of those. She felt like she should, and looking at him made her worry. She knew that Lady Phenex would be doing her best, as she always did of course, to tend to her children, so this was an oddity. She had been practicing magic, some perhaps unorthodox method of magic with her father, so with a little bit of focus she started to drown out the other noise in the room, trying to reach the Phenex brothers to listen in on their conversation. It took a little bit, and she felt a minor resistance but not enough to stop her. No answer again? Rias questioned, his hands in his pockets and a lazy expression on his face. Naruto gave a small shake of his head. I'm not sure what to tell you. It's fine, she's probably still just mad at me. Naruto sagged a little and sat on the floor resting his head on his knees. She was finding it very difficult to be mad at him right now. She was worried. Rias gave a small shrug. You'll patch things up. Just get her something nice again and say you're sorry. Between the training with father, Ruvel, and the lessons with mother, I'm surprised I have enough time to sleep. You saw how they were after I snuck out. They've upped the security around my room. There is always someone watching now. I don't envy you. But you are their golden egg at the moment. What? Naruto looked around the room. We have eavesdroppers. One moment. She watched him trace some symbol in the air and quickly cut her connection. She watched a number of people around the room flinch and rub at their ears, more than a little thankful she cut it early enough to stop whatever the hell he did. It seemed like her time listening in was over though, as Rias's peerage circled around the brothers with Hankawa keeping a close watch of the room, and of her. Sikvera gave a smile only to have the cat hiss back. Yep, she hated that damn thing. Siks? Hello, Siks? Sikvera snapped her attention back to Rias, who was waving a hand in her face. You there? Yes, sorry, I was a little distracted. Rias and Sona shared a glance before shrugging. Anyway, how is your peerage coming along? She gave a small wince. Next question? Sona adjusted her glasses before speaking. I am curious as to how your relationship with Naruto Phenex is going. Inwardly she groaned. Given what she knew of Surzex and Serafal, it was likely that these two knew what was happening in the Phenex clan. I would rather not talk about that in public. It seems that there are people listening in on other conversations in here. Siks motioned to some of the other devils that were rubbing their ears and a few having burned hair as well. A shame. Rias has been rather inadequate in providing information on the Phenex clan. I figured because you had a better relationship with your husband to be that you might be able to tell us what is happening. They have been unusually withdrawn this past month. Something that my sister has made vocal notes about. I was hoping to be able to get one up on her. Damn it, why was everyone being so pitiful today? She tapped her chin a few times in pretend thought. She could give them something, just a tiny little thing to satisfy them. Lord and Lady Phenex invited me to a ball. I think they are still settling on a date, but it could be in preparation for that. None of it was a lie, but it was far from all she knew. Still, that seemed to be enough as she watched the glitter that appeared in both of their eyes. Yes, every girl liked to dress up and feel like a princess from time to time. She would even admit to being rather excited about it, at least before tonight. She had wanted to take Naruto's breath away, to steal his gaze from that harlot of a cat and focus on her for an entire night. Now though, she didn't know. She didn't know if she would be able to enjoy herself if he continued to look like that. She didn't know if she wanted these things to go ahead, and she didn't know why they were all standing around here waiting. Before she got the chance to perhaps voice some of her frustrations to her friends, there was a cough from the front of the room as Serafal appeared. In a moment, each of you should receive a packet of information regarding your assignment tonight. This assignment is both a test and a matter of security, so we would like for each of you to do your absolute best in resolving the issue at hand. The packets appeared and Sikvera quickly opened it up and started reading through. Yes, Naruto Phenex, is it? Do you have a question? Siks looked over to him. He looked much more composed, an almost serious air around him. Do we have permission to investigate the site of battle? What site of battle? Sikvera quickly flicked through the packet further. There was a brief mention of it, but nowhere near the start. Something wasn't adding up. The brothers knew a lot more than they were letting on. You have all been given permission to investigate locations mentioned in the packet at your own discretion. Any further locations will need to be cleared by a higher authority, or the Amy clan. Sikvera was still reading while trying to pay attention to what was happening. It seemed like a yokai had killed their master. Oh, this was not good. Not good at all. After the Nekishu incident, relations have been really strained. This could send things into a very, very bad spiral. Are we permitted to leave now, if we have gathered all that we can from the packet? Of course. With that, the Phenex brothers and their servants left. Wait, was the cat a servant? She used Naruto's circle, maybe? She tugged on Sona and Rias' arms. We have to leave now. The Phenex brothers know something. They gave her a curious look but agreed. They formed a circle around each other and gathered their servants close before teleporting to the Amy storehouse, which seemed to be the site of battle that was mentioned. There was that familiar lurch in their stomachs as their surroundings almost flashed to something different. Sikvera looked and saw a blue light already fading far in the distance. She made to take a step forward only to hear the sound of a weapon slowly being drawn. I'd advise against that, Carlamine. If Sikvera doesn't put you in the ground, Naruto just might, came the voice of Riser just off to the side, followed by the sound of a blade being sheathed once again. The peerage of Riser walked out into the open with him standing slightly behind them. Are you here to impede us, Riser? Sikvera spoke evenly and clearly. Both of them were aware that Should would one day be a higher member in the Phenex clan than him. But the others, they might have guesses, but they didn't need for her to spoil any surprise that may come. No, not you three. Anyone else maybe. But you girls were the quickest. Honestly, just relax for a bit. Naruto and Hinkawa have it covered. Doubt you could catch them anyhow. Sik saw that the girls behind her didn't seem too impressed with his words. She wasn't either, honestly. I can find Naruto. Riser let out a small scoff. You can't even find the time to answer his calls. She stepped forward and grabbed the front of his shirt roughly. Brief attention paid to the girls readying to fight behind her, and his peerage ready to defend. She leaned in close enough to whisper. Is there something you want to say? She saw him go to roughly grab her hands but stop at the last moment. There are a lot of things I want to say. Now I don't know what has your no doubt expensive panties in a knot, but for some stupid reason you seem to be able to fix issues with my brother, and he has a lot right now. She relaxed her grip a little and he pulled his shirt away, fixing it and smoothing it out before roughly coughing into his hand. If you want to chase them, best of luck, cause I stayed behind to not slow them down. He stood aside and opened the path for them. Sikvera looked back to Rias and Sona. She wasn't sure if they would follow her or not, and she wasn't sure if she wanted them to or not. Taking a breath, and she shot out in the direction she saw Naruto heading. Hinkawa had been able to pick up the scent of a female Nekishu the moment they landed. With a quick nod to Naruto, she took off at her fastest along the ground. She could feel him watching from above as she jumped over tree roots and dived through bushes. She felt the clothes she was wearing catching on something, but she kept pushing forward. He wouldn't be too happy that they got destroyed again, so she needed to make sure she caught this person because when he was happy she got to sleep in her clothes pile and play in his room. He had lots of cool things in there, lots of books too, but she wasn't allowed to play with those. Then there was that Seek, whatever her name was. She was making her mate sad. Hinkawa didn't like how he felt when he was sad. He should be happy, he has her after all. Maybe she'd give him cuddles tonight, she always felt better after pats and scratches. Oh, and fish. Maybe she'd get him fish. Wait, what was she doing? Oh, Nekishu. Oh, she's slow. He would be happy that we're catching up. He should be happy. Hinkawa will catch her for him. Kuroka let out a shaky breath as she steadied herself against a nearby tree. That prick from Amy got what he deserved, but she knew there would be backlash. She dropped Chiron off somewhere safe and ran as hard as her senjutsu-powered legs would take her. But now she was running short of breath. She stretched her senses out and felt something coming. She wasn't sure what it was, but it was a raging storm of emotions. It was fast. It was gaining on her. She started to run again and felt her muscles burn. She couldn't keep it up for long, but if she could pass into no man's land she might get a reprieve. No, it wasn't possible. Whatever was on her tail had picked up its pace. Kuroka broke into a clearing and tried to set up a trap, but it was too late. She could feel it. She looked up and saw a pair of glowing golden eyes piercing through the shadows of the trees. A Nikomata? But as he crept forward on all fours, a teen, maybe her age, in lingerie and nothing else, she felt something was wrong. There were no tails. Every fiber in her body screamed for her to run, and she took a step back. The creature took one forward. It was watching her, it was waiting. She turned, sprinting. Maybe she could break away. There was a strong thud before nothing. She couldn't hear another impact. Then she felt it. The creature was on her back. She made to rip it off, only for lightning to surge through her body. Her strength? It was sucking her senjutsu away. She felt herself growing weaker and weaker as a blue glow appeared overhead. It faded like the pain surging through her. Only the pain kicked back up as this creature's claws sunk into her flesh, and she felt it bite down on the back of her neck. She was done for. They caught her so quickly. They'd kill her. They'd kill Chiron. No, Chiron was safe. She had to be safe. Kuroka Tuju. It was a male voice, not coming from her neck. The one that landed must be the one speaking. You've put me in a very difficult position. Sorry? Do I know you? Ah, hey. The bit on her neck tightened and she winced. You don't. But I am trying to repair the relationship between yokai and devils after the Nekishu incident. This doesn't help. She knew it didn't, but she couldn't just do nothing. I just kill me. There was a pause. Why were they making her wait? Was it torment her? If so, that was cruel. She braced and continued to brace, but it never came. She felt the piercing clamps on her slowly release along with the teeth in her neck. She tastes yucky. Normally Kuroka would refute that, but right now she was just confused. She slowly sat up and looked at the slender girl who was stretching out. Naya, haha, you lost. I'm the better cat. She had a very proud look on her face. It was the blonde that was still watching her that was currently giving her the chills though. He looked gaunt, young but gaunt. His eyes thinking, she'd seen the look before and it wasn't always good. Hankawa, what did she feel? He spoke. While calm there was a tension in his voice. He guessed the cat-like thing was Hankawa as she perked up at her name. Fear, lots of fear, but she wanted to protect something too. Could this thing read her mind? Yep. Now she is confused and aroused. She was not. Okay, maybe a little, tiny, minuscule amount. I think that's enough, Hankawa. The cat tilted its head to the side and gave a wide smile. Okay, one thing Kuroka was taking away from this situation was that whatever that thing was, it wasn't natural. She can feel it, but at the same time she feels like she can't. She had sensed a lot of things through senjutsu, and that creature was almost like it was senjutsu. Energy given form. She swapped her gaze back to the male. Whatever he was, despite how he looked, he felt full of life, full of warmth. In another situation she might find herself melting from the proximity, but she was too tense. Ready to try and fight if need be. He looked to Hankawa and she nodded. Lots, maybe 10 or 15. He let out a groan and then Kuroka felt it. Fallen angels were approaching them. The man beside her was like a light in the dark. How hadn't she noticed him before? She watched Hankawa move closer towards him, and it explained everything. She blocked his presence entirely. I'll be quick. If you can use senjutsu like your file says, you might be able to sense them already. My name is Naruto Phenex. I mean you no harm despite the current situation. You're free to go even, but we could use your help. I won't fault you for running, and I would even strongly encourage it if other devils appear. But like I said, I want to rebuild relations with the yokai, and the situation feels wrong. There was an air of sincerity about him and Kuroka nodded. She understood what he meant. He'd try to help, but if other devils showed up he would do what had to be done. She wanted to run. She really wanted to run. She blinked as she felt her energy coming back and her wounds closing up. There was faint little blue motes drifting from Naruto and landing on her skin. Sorry, I'm not very good at it, he said with an uneasy smile. To her though, it washed away her fear. He was risking himself to help her? He had no reason to. She stood up and channeled her energy again. He had given her a lot of it back. She quickly started to mix it with senjutsu. Whether she ran or fought, it would be helpful. Just as she finished, she felt the fallen arrive. They were really outnumbered. She could take 2, maybe 3, but with this many she didn't know if she'd even get that. One step forward, she guessed it was their leader? They had black hair that was slicked back and a pair of sharp glasses resting on their nose. That sense of dress, the pompous face, hair, and that attitude. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we found ourselves a phoenix on a midnight stroll with some catgirls. Look, one is next to naked and the other is covered in dirt. I know you devils are meant to indulge in sin, but please, do try to keep some semblance of cleanliness about you. She watched as Naruto took a step forward, drawing attention to himself. Oh look, another fallen angel that thinks he is special because daddy kicked him out of their little club. Now I know you guys aren't the smartest bunch, that's why you fell, right? But you are aware that you're in devil territory, which breaks the terms of the ceasefire. Really, did he have to goad them? Couldn't he have been nicer about it? There was a chance that they could have gotten out of this without fighting, right? When she saw the spears of light charge up all around them, she knew that chance was over. She really wished she had ran while she had the chance. Wow, a devil with a shark tongue, how unique. It's fine though, I mean once you're gone we were never here. I don't see a problem here. There was a pause as the leader looked around. Do it, and the spears flew towards them. She braced herself, closed her eyes and tried to put up a defense, but they were fast. She was dead, they were dead. This sucked. She wouldn't see Chiron again. But it never came, there was no burning. It was warm, yes, but there was no pain. She creaked an eye open to see a dome of blue flames around them. She looked to the blonde, his hand pointed at the ground where a faint trail lay. Hankawa, you have my permission to kill them if you must, all but him. Naruto pointed his hand up at the glasses wearing fallen before giving them both a thumbs up. Kuroka watched her get low to the ground as her smile became feral. The fear was back, it was so back and much worse than before. The dome dropped, and she vanished in a white blur. Naruto spread his wings out, and she was in awe of their brilliant color. He turned to face her and smiled. Remember what I said, and good luck, he said before flying up into the air. The fallen tried to swarm the two, but she was not forgotten as a handful came after her. They were weaker, she was grateful. She dodged the one that lunged at her with a spear and tried to swat his back with a ball of jiu-jitsu, but another got in her way. She managed to get out of the way, but her clothes got further torn. Much longer, and she'd look like Hinkawa. Without wasting another moment, she jumped to the side and landed a kick on her third assailant, watching him double over. She twisted, or rather went to, but they grabbed her leg and held it close to their stomach. Her eyes went wide as came back. She made a few seals with her hands before bringing them up to her mouth and spewed out a cloud of purple mist. They tried to back away, but the one holding her leg wasn't fast enough. It sounded like he got a good breath or two by the coughing. Okay, she was doing good. Damn, this was getting her blood pumping. The mist dissipated and the two remaining ones closed the distance. It seemed they weren't going to come one at a time anymore. She hated it when villains started to learn. Was still doing their thing, but the one behind them was throwing out smaller spears of light to stop her from forming hand signs. She jumped back and back again, using her hands to direct her and bat away the spears that got a little too close. They freaking hurt. There were at least minor burns on the backs of her hands after the third one. On her first jump, she found a tree and widened her eyes. Lungi seemed happy as he sped forward with a sharp thrust. She twirled around the tree and heard his spear impale it. She pushed off the ground and slammed her fist into the tree as hard as she could, getting the crack she was looking for as it fell towards the fallen. Kuroka didn't check to see if she hit with the tree and instead rushed through McDouchebag at the back. His spear turned into a sword and he moved to meet her. She quickly formed an orb of jiu-jitsu that turned into a rod of earth. It was heavy, but she swung it as the sword dude did and watched it shatter. She'd planned on that and thrust the now jagged edge forward into his chest. He started to gargle up blood and she wanted to vomit. She'd seen enough of it tonight. She didn't want to see anymore. She took a step back and her arms were quickly grabbed. She widened her eyes in shock. Got you now, bitch. Dom, don't miss this time. Kuroka looked over and saw the man that was coughing earlier slowly move towards her as he summoned a sword of light. Man, she really should have run. Why did she stay behind? Was it that damned smile? No, she refused. She locked eyes with melty face as he inched closer. It felt like it wouldn't end. She struggled in the grasp of Lungi, but he wouldn't budge. Then she saw it, almost like blurred pictures. There was a flash of white before a spray of red as Melty's head was ripped off. She couldn't hold it and barfed, right over Lungi's shoes. Then she heard a crack and the grip loosened on her. She looked back and saw Melty's face embedded in Lungi's head. She barfed again. She looked up to Hinkawa, who tilted her head at her. There was blood all over her hands and her feet, but it didn't appear to be her own. She looked around the field and it was littered with scenes of destruction. Then she felt it. There were more devils coming. She took a breath and steadied herself as she stood. Tell your master I won't forget what his aid here. Hinkawa gave a stern nod before smiling. I am best cat though, Naya ha ha. Before she took back off into the fight, Kuroka didn't have the time to argue with her. She just watched that monster go back to doing its job, and feeling the other devils approach, she beat a hasty retreat. Naruto would admit that restoring Kuroka took more out of him than he thought it would. He really needed to practice with that, but there was nothing he could do now. Hinkawa, she was strong, he would have to trust her to be okay, the same with Kuroka. It looked like he drew the short straw here. There were only 3, but each had 2 sets of wings. They weren't the regular small fry he had run into before. Riser was pretty far away, he would need to stall for a bit. Would Riser even feel the fighting happening here? His queen might, but he admittedly hadn't spent much time with her. He might have to change that after tonight, if they lived through it. Well, only one thing to do. He rose himself up to float at the same height as the fallen that had chosen him. With a small breath, he stuffed his hands into his pockets, took a step forward, and let out a laugh. He saw them tense as he continued to laugh, his flames stirring to life and flicking out like ripples in the water. They dodged, and he watched it splash against some nearby trees. He'd really been hoping to maybe catch one of them, but it'd have been an odd enough display in his energy for anyone to want to investigate if they were looking. You plan on laughing us to death, little Phenex? Naruto withdrew his hands from his pockets and looked them over. You would honestly be surprised at how often that works. Maybe I should have waited until you tried to rush me. You guys are faster than the others. He bounced lightly on his feet before doing a quick spin in the air. He tried to aim, well, more like avoid certain areas as he sprayed out tiny orbs of blue fire that shot through the air like bullets. He wasn't sure if he hit anyone, but he had avoided Kuroka and Hinkawa. Nope, judging by the burnt body Hinkawa is holding up, he hit one. He didn't give those around him a moment to think as he shot forward at Glasses with a blue flame coating his fist. Glasses summoned a sword of light and moved to stab the hand. Naruto saw his eyes go wide as the blade bounced before his fist connected and cleaved out a portion of his stomach. The other 2 quickly moved to pounce, forcing him away before he could get a second hit. Shit, he needed Glasses alive. No, just one of them. So long as he kept one of them alive, it was fine. Each of them took a slice at him, and he narrowly dodged between the 2 blades before throwing a kick out at one. They blocked it with their arm, and he saw them flinch from the impact. The other wasn't giving him much room though, and quickly made to stab again. Naruto reached around and grabbed the wrist before flipping over him and kicking him towards his friend. He reached behind him and summoned a ball of fire. He quickly made it smaller to try and keep one around, and threw it at the pair, watching it explode and send them off into the trees. Now he had the choice. He could go for glasses, or he could go for the two to confirm what happened. He knew what he needed to do and quickly gave chase. He covered his fists in fire before he dropped to the ground, dodging two spears of light that were thrown his way. He jumped forward and met a sword of light mid-swing with his fist, while another tried to pin him from behind. He pulled his energy to his back and let it explode like a more violent way of drawing out his wings. It launched him forward against the fallen in front, pushing his bunch deeper into the sword, while the one behind was caught in a surge of blue flames. He punched, blocked, kicked, let out a flame burst and countered. It repeated again and again. He was starting to get tired, they had to be, but he needed to be faster. He needed to be stronger. He wasn't allowed to lose, not anymore. The stalemate of continuous back and forth continued for what felt like hours, and he couldn't tell how much time passed, but then it changed. There was an explosive light-based energy from where he had left glasses. He couldn't feel Hinkawa, and was that Seek Vera? She was scared, and then, nothing. Something inside of him stirred. A hot boiling surge of fire as time slowed. He took in the position of the two fallen with him, and took a small step to the side, drawing them closer together before rearing his fist back and launching it forward with a roar. Seek Vera could feel that something was wrong. The air had this nasty sting to it as she approached. There were signs of destruction everywhere in the small clearing. It was littered with bodies. She quickly scanned it before finding a sign of movement, and her heart fell to her stomach. There was a fallen angel with 6 wings standing over Hinkawa as he pulled a spear of light from her chest. He looked like he hadn't come out of it for free, but Seeks couldn't move. Yes, she hated the cat, at least she thought she did, but this felt so wrong. She watched Hinkawa try to claw him, but he shook her off before delivering a sharp kick to her head. There was a crack. She stopped moving. Seek Vera felt her blood go cold. No, just no. It didn't make sense. Why were the fallen here? Where was Naruto? She looked back, and a part of her was thankful Rias and Sona weren't there, while another part dreaded it. She was alone. The man looked up to her, and she could feel her heart jump to her throat. Another little devil, huh? He twirled the spear in his hand. You're just like fucking cockroaches, he said and flung it. Seeks quickly rebooted and got control of herself as it approached. She waved her hand and turned back time on it, watching as it started to retrace its steps. She could attempt to blow up his own spear next to him. With the idea set, she continued her spell at the last moment, taking in the body at his feet. She aborted. It blew up early. She clenched her fist tight and bit her lip. Seek Vera knew she had shown her hand too early. She should have made sure it would be a kill. It would have, but she couldn't do that. She's quite dead, he said as he kicked her body a few more times. It got no reaction from Hinkawa, but Seeks could feel her fists shaking. She knew the reason she hated Hinkawa. It was her freedom. She didn't need to pretend to be something she wasn't. She didn't need to maintain an appearance. She could just do what she wanted without worrying about how it made others look. Yes, she might have hated how clingy she was with Naruto, but she didn't want this. A shame, truly. In a year or two she would have made a nice toy. She hardened her eyes and looked at the fallen. Oh, now that is quite the glare there. With a face like that, I can't wait to see what you're packing under that dress. Seek Vera knew she had to get this man away from her body. That meant getting dirty. She kicked off the ground and flew towards him, quickly changing time on a spear that was coming near and causing it to overshoot her by a large margin. She channeled demonic energy to her hands and lashed out. He stepped back and she pushed forward, trying to keep her strikes fast. She couldn't give him a chance to push her back. She needed him to stay on the defense. He summoned a sword of light, and she changed its time, snuffing it out of existence. In his shock, she threw her hands forward and hit him with a blast of demonic energy before pivoting on her feet. Her wings shot out, and she flew to Hinkawa, grabbing the girl and moving her out of the way. Her opponent would have none of that, and was on her heels. Trying to run? That's not going to work. Her vision went red and she stopped. Everything hurt. She reached for the spear in her gut and reversed its time, causing it to fly back towards the man before exploding. Seek Vera dropped to the ground and found a tree to store Hinkawa inside of. That should have brought her some time. She needed some time. Why wasn't anyone coming? Rias and Sona should have caught up. Riser should have felt something was off. She reached for the tear Naruto had given her, only to find broken glass. She took a breath and ran the current scenario through her head. The chance of her getting out alive was much higher if she didn't try to take anyone. Maybe not much higher, but it was higher. But could she leave a possibly injured or dead Naruto here along with Hinkawa? What would her family think? What would the Phenex think? What would she think? It wasn't an option, and she cursed her emotions for that. How did she fight this man? He was faster, and it would appear stronger than her. He was tired, that much was clear, along with his injuries, but her state wasn't much better. She'd been altering time too much, and didn't know how many more she had in her. 2 or 3 to be safe, for if she was lucky. As for her offensive capabilities, Well, they were actually rather low compared to Rias and Sona. She would admit that through grit teeth. So that left trying to make him blow himself up, or trying to land a killing blow with her demonic energy-infused fists or blasts. She could try to use the trees to narrow his paths of attack, but that would put her in close proximity to her. It was risky, it increased her chance of death, but it would also increase her chance of actually winning here. Sigvera knew she was no expert when it came to fighting. No, it might be better to say that more often than not she went out of her way to avoid it. It was because she knew it wasn't her strong suit. Thinking is where she was better, even better than Sona if she could brag a little, but that didn't feel right at the moment. No one would be around to hear her gloat right now. But she had a plan. Her eyes scanned the ground and she found what she needed, a rock the size of her fist. With a small nod she tried to find where the fallen was. He had to be nearby now. That blast wasn't enough to put him down, she could feel it wasn't. He wasn't too far, just standing still. Waiting. Sigvera gripped the rock a little tighter and started making her way through the trees to meet him. When it cleared somewhat she could see him picking dirt from his nails with a spear of light. Oh, are you ready to play now? She took a breath in and nodded. I'm ready to blow you to pieces. Big talk. That Phenex boy was the same, haven't seen him in a while now. He was lying. She told herself that again and again as she ran through her plan. With a nod she ran forward. He twirled his spear and she threw the rock. His expression changed a little as he moved his head to the side. Just what she'd hoped. With her magic still covering it, just thrust it forward in time, turning it to dust. She saw him flail and try to remove it from the air, but she wouldn't let him. Flooding her leg with demonic energy, she kicked him, pushing him back a little and causing him to spit and cough. Without giving him a chance to recover, she reverted the dust back into a rock and grabbed it again, sharpening it with her energy before stabbing it into his gut. With a smile she turned it to dust again and watched some spurt out of the wound. Feeling the high, she kicked him again before punching him in the face and pleading with herself. She just needed one more. Just one more. She grabbed where she figured the dust to be with her power and turned it back to stone. She watched him stiffen for a moment as a feeling of hopelessness came over her. It wasn't enough. She couldn't revert it completely. He was hurt, definitely hurt, but still standing. She watched him limp forward as she tried to move her hands, but they wouldn't budge. They were stiff as hell, and she could see the overuse of her power kicking in as her fingers started to blacken. Just a little more. She got a twitch. A little more, a little more. She could feel it, just out of her reach. There was still some dust left, she could still fuse it around his organs. She could still turn this around. But it was out of reach. She laughed, though it came out like something between a choked sob and a cough. All those times he'd invited her out to train and she'd rejected it. Those times where he wanted to go on a walk with her, this entire past month. Her family, her friends. She had a lot of regrets. Too many to name fully. Sigvera could see the fallen clearly now. He had blood running down the sides of his mouth and a large hole in his stomach. You filthy whore. He spat at her feet before raising his hand up and backhanding her. It lifted her off her feet and sent her crashing into the dirt. It surprised her how little it hurt. She'd let everyone down. Her body refused to move and the dirt felt so comfortable. It scared her. What happened when a devil died? With that thought in mind she passed out, but not before hearing the faint screech of a bird. She thought it odd, they didn't have many birds down here. Naruto wasn't sure what happened. Something had changed, but he didn't know what. He was faster, he was stronger, but he didn't know how. He chased the flames that erupted from his punch as he continued to roar. He used his talons to carve up the fallen inside of the fire before he broke ahead and continued. He flew as fast as he could to where he felt her last. He burst through the trees, hearing as the fire roared behind him. He came upon the sight of that glasses-wearing fallen from earlier. He had more wings now, but that didn't matter. What mattered was his hand on Sigvera's throat. He sent some energy towards her and felt her heart steady. It was still weak, but he didn't know how much he could spare. He flew forward and glasses threw her to the side. Naruto sent her more to keep her stable as he gave chase. Glasses flew into the sky and Naruto would not let him pull away. He opened his mouth and let out another roar, watching a blast of blue-white flames shoot out like a laser. He fired twice more before the fallen turned and charged a massive spear of light and threw it at him. Naruto pulled his wings in and spun, feeling the spear hit them, but it didn't break through. The two forces spun against one another, either willing to give up, neither budging an inch. No. He wasn't allowed to lose. He let out another screech and broke through. He could feel this anger inside boiling over. It felt like it was eating him away. Then he saw the fallen and everything but him vanished. He flew faster than ever and zeroed on him. The man tried to defend against Naruto's talons, but the Phenex was relentless. He cut and stabbed and pecked and let out balls of fire as they flew higher and higher before he ripped one of those pesky arms away. Naruto sunk his talons into the man's shoulders and flew higher and higher still. There was another, watching, he could feel them. They would hurt Sigvera, they would hurt Hankoa. He got level with the other scraggly-looking older man. Before opening his mouth wide, the other one tried to block, The one in his talons couldn't as he let out his loudest screech and felt them consumed. His anger slowly started to simmer. All that remained was the one arm in his talon. He looked down, his giant wings keeping him in the air as the forest below was lit a brilliant azure. With slow flaps he started to descend, taking notice of Rias growing closer. A lot of people were getting closer. His family was here. He let out another screech and the fires stopped. Naruto looked, trying to find them. It took a moment, but he heard a cough and quickly chased after it. Six had her weight rested against a tree as she was trying to grab something. He dropped behind her and watched her stiffen. He didn't want her to be afraid. She slowly turned and widened her eyes at him. With that, the last of his anger faded, and he felt his body twist and crack until he was standing roughly a head taller than her. He felt like shit. He could probably sleep for a week after this. I'm glad you're okay, Six. He saw her fidget before nodding. Thanks to you? I couldn't protect her. He looked past and saw the limp arm she was holding. Naruto could feel that anger building again, and he quickly tried to temper it. It was strong, but he needed to think. Raven, go get some tears, quickly! Came the voice of his father. Naruto barely paid him mind until his rough hand landed on his shoulder. You need to put yourself out, my boy. Naruto raised his arm. He noticed he was burning. It didn't hurt, and he couldn't feel it draining him. He took a deep breath in and slowly watched it die down. Hankoa didn't deserve this. He looked at Sikvera, his voice dry and crackly as he spoke. Is it okay for me to make her my knight? She gave him a look, and they locked eyes for a moment. If you think I'm still angry about that, well, I am, but no, it's fine. He shook his head. No, I decided that I want you to be my queen. They are normally the first piece. He looked to Hankoa. No, that's fine. This is more pressing. I'll leave you to it. Lord Phenex, don't worry, I won't speak about what happened here. And Naruto, when you're ready to talk, I'm ready to listen now. But I think I need a nap. She might have tried to laugh, but it sounded like a cough. Naruto noticed her moving away, but not too far. He needed to know she was fine at the moment. Rias dropped down behind him and he heard his father move to intercept. Naruto meanwhile traced a symbol in the air and called forth his evil pieces. He opened the case and slowly took out a knight. They were a bright orange in color with a tiny blue flame in their center. He hadn't noticed the flame until recently. He hadn't looked at his pieces in years, not until Hankoa. He didn't think he'd ever have one, or a need for one even. He took a breath to steady himself as he closed the case and sent it back to where it came from. Naruto channeled some of his energy into the night, watching it glow faintly before he pulled Hankoa out of the tree and rested her on her back. Her wounds were bad, worse than Sikvera's. He righted her neck and healed the patches that were missing before resting his knight on her chest. He took another deep breath in. He had to find the words. I, Naruto Phenex, beseech you, Hankoa Tsubasa, cast off the shackles of death and run free once more as my knight. Together we can strive for a better tomorrow. He waited. Time seemed to creep by agonizingly slow. Then, as he was about to try a different piece, he watched the knight slowly lift up before floating down into her chest. A moment later her chest rose as she took her first breath. Naruto rolled back and landed on his ass. He took the minute or so he needed just to catch his breath before slowly standing up and looking over in Seek's direction. He could see her later. He needed to see how his thoughts were cut off as his father placed a hand on his shoulder. Go see her. You'll be distracted otherwise. His voice was soft, almost comforting. We'll take Hankoa home and put her in a place to rest. Also take these, you two could use a pick-me-up. He placed 2 vials into Naruto's hand before slowly closing it. Naruto turned around and saw that his family, minus Revel, were all there. Revel and Rias both had their peerages out. The 2 brothers had an angry look on their faces as they barked out orders before looking back at him and giving faint smiles. He could see his mother talking to other Devil Clan leaders and the Mao. The next few days were going to be hell. He gave his father a small nod and smiled at his brothers before heading over to Sikvera. He slowed as he saw Lord and Lady Agars floating over her like the doting parents they were while she tried to assure them she was fine. Lord Agars noticed him first and gave a faint smile. My dear, it might be best if we leave the young ones alone for a little while. I am sure they have a lot to talk about. The lady of the house looked like she wanted to protest, but after looking between her daughter and future son-in-law she relented, leaving the 2 teens alone. Naruto managed to pull himself over to the tree she was sitting against and slowly let himself slide down to sit next to her. For you, he offered her one of the vial while he downed the other himself. He no longer felt dead tired, just tired. He watched her wince and slowly rub hers into her stomach. So, that was a hell of a first date. She turned and looked at him with those pink eyes of hers. Excuse me? Well, it's just that it was the first outing we've really had that wasn't organized by our clans. She was quiet and Naruto could see her thinking. I refuse. You refuse? Yes. I refuse to accept that you believe this to be our first date. You will have to do much better before I allow you to consider it a date. Yes, ma'am. He gave her a false salute before they both started to laugh and instantly regretted it as they grabbed their ribs or stomach. I can try to get that for you if you want. She winced but slowly pulled her hands away from her stomach. He noticed that there was a nasty burn mark still sitting there. If it hadn't been healed by the tears, it must have been pretty severe. That she was still fighting with such a wound was impressive. He smiled a little as he channeled his energy into her stomach, watching as the skin slowly started to return back to normal. If he was honest, it was the first time he had really paid attention to her body. Yes, he knew she was attractive. He could have been blind and known with how often people told him, but her skin was flawless, not a single blemish on it, and the curves she held drew your eyes to explore every inch of her. He felt her hands rest on his and he looked up. She was staring at his face. Your eyes, did you know they glow when you use your power? No, I didn't. Tonight is the most I've used it, if I am to tell the truth. I'm pretty horrible at it. She drew one of her hands away and traced where her wound had been. I'd say that you are at least adequate. A comfortable silence rolled over the two. She gripped his hands a little tighter. How did the ritual go? She took to the piece. Father said that they would take care of any extra healing. Everything else is on her now. I let you guys down. You shouldn't have had to fight, and Hinkawa shouldn't have had to die. I need to be better. He could feel her fingers exploring his hands as she dragged him down and rested his head in her lap. I do also. He looked up at her, and she looked down. Don't. I should have been faster. I should have been able to save Hinkawa. I shouldn't have needed you to save me. I have been lax. So, Naruto Phenex, I need you to promise me that next time you want to train, that will you not accept no lest I have prior arrangements. I don't want you to let me talk you out of it, no matter how lazy or tired I might feel that day. Okay, I was actually thinking of increasing how often I trained. But sure, I'll be by every morning at 7. That's a little intense. Can't we do 8? I'm sorry, but I was told no matter how lazy you feel. He gave her a wide smile. Starting next week. I think we both deserve a few days of sleep. Sigvera slowly ran her fingers through his hair. He had to admit it was relaxing, but he had missed talking to her. The playful barbs, her jokes, but most of all those cute expressions she made when she was embarrassed. I'm impressed. Her voice was soft. He looked at her, and she looked up. Your flames did not burn a single leaf. He blinked. She was right. The trees were all still full. He could have sworn it was a sea of flames. I guess I was lucky? Maybe. Maybe not. Oh, also, I'm still not happy about the Hinkawa situation, but only because you didn't ask me first. So long as she learns to mind her tongue. He gave a small chuckle. Mother has been trying to give her lessons on etiquette. She says it is worse than trying to teach me. I can only imagine. He liked seeing her smile. It made something in him feel at ease. You never did answer my question though. She tilted her head to the side. Oh, will you become my queen? Naruto, I want to. Believe me, I do. But what would you do if we need to face each other in a rating game? He shrugged. Honestly, he hadn't thought of that. I guess I'd say no or forfeit. I'm not that interested in competing in them anyway. I don't think your mother would be happy with that. I don't think I will have to partake. I mean, what would the underworld think if I lost? She paused. Perhaps she hadn't thought of that. That's fair enough. It would look bad. Fine, you've convinced me. I will give you the great honor of being your queen. Really? Really. But not tonight. For now you need to rest. I feel like you are going to be rather busy in the coming days after your stunt tonight. Naruto rose a brow as he took her hand. Stunt? She looked down at him for a moment, a puzzled expression on her face before pointing up. He followed her finger and saw blue flames burning in the night sky. I didn't mean to do that. I know, but you will have to explain it anyway. So sleep. Don't worry, I won't run this time. With that she leaned down and placed a kiss on his forehead. His eyes grew heavier and heavier until he couldn't open them anymore, getting the best night's sleep he has had in the past month. Azazel ripped the clothes from his body and tossed them to the ground, watching as the blue flames continued to burn. Did he make a mistake in allowing that group to leave? Yes. Did he know that some many heirs and heiresses would be frolicking about? Hell no. He didn't want to start anything, and this was a surefire way to do so. He was about to jump in and save the Agar's girl before the bird showed up. He was thankful as hell, because he didn't want to have to explain his presence there, but he also remembered seeing that bird before. It was a long, long time ago, during the Great War. It was a pain to deal with then, and tonight reminded him why. He was thankful that whoever it was still so young, otherwise he might have suffered more than burnt clothes. But that also ruled out a fair few members of the Phenex clan. It mostly left just the newest generation, the 3 young siblings. He would have to pay much more attention to this batch of devils, 3 new Phenex, a new Gremory, a new Citri, a new Agars, and a new Bale, just to name a few. Actually, if he was remembering right, the Phenex brothers were already engaged to the Gremory girl and the Agar's girl. Oh, a smile slowly crept across his face. Could it have been the middle brother so ferociously defending his would-be wife? That would be romantic. He'd have to try and pry when he gave his apologies to the families involved. This decade was looking to be a lot more enjoyable than the previous few. Hinkawa looked at her palms while she furled and unfurled them. Something was different, but she wasn't quite sure what it was. She felt stronger, but also not. She felt tired, but also awake. She noticed that someone had dressed her, and judging by the smell it was either Lady Phenex or Ravel. She liked them, but Lady Phenex could be real scary. She grabbed the throw blanket on her lap, got out of bed, and moved around to stand beside her blonde hero. She draped the blanket over his shoulders and left him to sleep as she gently closed the door to the room. Normally she would sit there and poke his nose until he woke up, but for some reason she didn't feel like doing that. Instead she wandered through the castle. There were a handful of maids still on duty who gave her strange looks, but she just continued to walk. It was different. Normally she ran everywhere, so it was pretty easy to get lost in this maze of a house. She still got lost a number of times before finding the room she was looking for. She opened the doors and saw there were some people inside. Hinkawa had seen them around, normally near Riser. She didn't know most of their names though. Well, there was Yulu, she knew that one, and Riser. That was enough. She walked between the spars that were happening before landing next to the younger Phenex. He seemed to be watching them. Oh, were they training? Hey! Her voice came off softer than she had planned. It felt dry. Riser jumped, and Hinkawa put her hand up to grab Yulu's staff, stopping it in its tracks. Hinkawa, and clothed? She tilted her head to the side and eyed him for a moment. Did I die? His eyes widened and he looked like he was thinking. She didn't like that. I don't think you want to have that conversation with me, you should wait for Naruto. Hinkawa gave a small nod. He seemed uncomfortable. Okay, am I dead? His shoulders sagged, but it should be fine. It's a different topic, right? No, you are very much alive. She gave another nod, that was good. She didn't think she'd enjoy being dead. Am I strong? She looked down at her free hand and clenched it. She had thought she was really strong, but then she lost. If she was strong, she shouldn't have, right? She should have been able to win. He was taking his time to answer. She didn't like that. I would say you're pretty strong. Maybe not as strong as me, but pretty strong. Nah, I'd beat you. Riser cleared his throat. Anyway, I remember asking Naruto why he wasn't interested in raiding games. Do you know what he said? They're boring? No. Riser shook his head. He said he couldn't see the point. I guess between he and myself we have a different view on what it means to fight. Hinkawa nodded. She spared a glance to Yulu before slowly letting go of the staff. I see fighting as a way to elevate one's station. To prove that you are better, that you are stronger, that you are the best. Hinkawa had to fully agree, that was the best way to prove oneself. So to me, raiding games are a way to do that in a somewhat safe environment. There is also the political stuff that comes with it. Yucky. Riser let out a small laugh. Naruto is much the same when it comes to politics. Regardless, you're probably interested in what he thought, right? He watched her, and she didn't know. She agreed with how Riser felt, apart from all the talky stuff. She didn't like that too much. Still she nodded. Naruto believes that fighting seriously, should only be done when you have something to protect, someone to protect. I had joked and asked what he'd do if Sikvera would die if he didn't win a raiding game. Without skipping a beat, he said that he'd crush the other peerage until there was nothing left. Riser had a small smile on his face. I'm not dumb enough to doubt that there is merit in his ideology, and in the end we achieve the same result. Both methods prove your strength and safeguard you and yours from enemies. It just boils down to who do you fight for, yourself, or someone else. She was quiet. Riser often said a lot of fancy words that she didn't bother to listen to, but this was like opening a whole new way of thinking about things. She didn't need to prove that she was best cat all the time to make Naruto not sad. She could be best cat by making him happy. Wait, what about training? Riser rose a brow. What about it? Should I still fight to win? He tilted his head and seemed to think about it for a moment. I think the best way would be to win against yourself from yesterday. Huh, you'll get it in time. Now shouldn't you be getting back to Naruto? She shook her head. Nah, he was asleep when I woke up. And how do you react when he is gone after a cat nap? Hinkawa thought about it for a bit before widening her eyes. I should go, thanks Riser, and you too Yulu. Before quickly running through the house. The maids weren't giving her weird looks anymore. She found the room Naruto was in, and slowly opened the door before crawling onto the bed and laying next to him. Looking at that sleeping face of his, it was strange. Right now she didn't feel as though she lost. She knew she did, but it didn't feel like she did. She reached up and lightly poked the tip of his nose, watching his face scrunch up for a moment before going back to normal. Hinkawa kept a quiet giggle to herself. Then she poked it again. Naruto slowly started to wake. He might have been angry at being disturbed, but the gentle poking of his nose followed by the naya ha 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 of Hinkawa actually did a lot of ease him. He could feel her moving to poke him again, and reached up to grab her hand. She gave a slight tug and he slowly opened his eyes, watching as her frown quickly turned into a bright smile. I'm glad you're feeling okay. He was, truly. Everyone kept telling him that she would be fine, that she just needed to sleep, but he hadn't done this before. He didn't know. What if she was different? What if his pieces were different? What if something went wrong? All those thoughts had kept swimming around until he just couldn't keep his eyes open any longer. He let go of her hand and stretched his back out. Hinkawa apparently saw this as an opportunity, as she crawled over and rested her head on his chest. He slid his arms around her and pulled her in close. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. That shouldn't have happened. She squirmed in his grip for a moment before settling herself in his lap. I was slow. I was weak, but Riser told me how to be strong. I'll be fine now. Naruto rose a brow at that. Riser told you? I'm going to fight like you. He wasn't quite sure what Hinkawa meant. Regardless, he just enjoyed feeling her alive and well again. He didn't get to enjoy it for too long though, as the door opened and his mother stood there with an unimpressed look. He was about to ask her what was wrong, but she held up a finger to silence him before walking over and turning on the radio. Look alive, sunshine. 109 in the sky, but the pigs won't quit. You're here with me, Dr. Death defying. I'll be your surgeon, your proctor, your helicopter. Pumping out the slaughtermatic sounds to keep you alive, a system failure for the masses, antimatter for the master plan, louder than God's revolver and twice as shiny. I wasn't the only thing shinning over the weekend. I know you all saw it. Those blue lights, that night of good sleep. We all know what this means. Those Phenexes have a lot to talk about, but none of them are willing to. So you know what you gotta. Killjoys, make some noise. She turned it off without hesitation and continued her look at the two. You're not happy, Naruto stated plainly. No, I'm not. Hinkawa must have sensed his irritation because she quickly jumped out of his arms and moved behind him. He leaned forward a little. What would you have me do? Let Sigvera die for what? To keep a secret for a week more? He stopped as she held her hand up. I am not unhappy at you. You did exactly as you should, and I could not be more proud. She gently touched his face and gave a warm smile before withdrawing her hand and moving over to the window, opening the curtains and looking down. I am unhappy at the vultures demanding answers from us. This is a clan matter and frankly none of their concern. He watched her give a painted smile towards the crowds before stepping away from the window. So whose head are you going to be hunting? I presume Seraphal Leviathan. If she were to release information like that, it would be easy enough for her to cover up that not one, but two heirs to pillar clans were attacked while in friendly territory on an assignment from her. You're not planning to do anything hasty, are you? She gave him a faint smile. No, I am not sure it was her. Even if I were, I would not, but I will remember this. I will find a way to use it. In the meantime, you two bathe, we have tailors coming. Also, I feel it is prudent to mention, separate baths Hinkawa. She had already started to move towards the door with all the grace that one could imagine. Mum. That one word stopped her in her tracks. She turned back around with a slight tip of her head as if prompting him to continue. I'd like to reduce our lessons on politics and history. I would ask for a reason as to why. Naruto watched her for a moment before folding his hands into themselves. I need to be stronger. This is not a want. What happened showed me that I'm not ready. How are people meant to put their faith in me if I can't even protect those closest to me? You are barely able to keep up with your current training regime. Do you have some plan to magically overcome this? Tears. Absolutely not. She saw him move to speak and quickly took a step forward. There was a strange fire in her eyes. No buts. They are for emergencies only. Naruto stood up and narrowed his eyes. Raiding games are emergencies? That is not what I meant. Then explain what you mean. Raven took a small step back and crossed her arms under her chest. We do not know if there are other side effects of you taking tears. Other side effects? Your dreams. You talk about them more often after taking tears. You have them more often after taking tears, don't you? He did. He couldn't deny that. They are only dreams. Remind me of why you changed your name? He couldn't answer. I don't want to lose you entirely. I am still your child. Are you? They stood there, either one blinking. He saw the tears in her eyes. Where is my boy that liked to run through the gardens? My boy that thought fighting was pointless? Where is my boy that would disrupt dinner to cheer his sister up with fart noises? He clenched his fists. He could feel that fire stirring. Locked behind doors, training, learning, becoming the very thing you are telling me not to after you told me how proud you were. After you told me I was our hope for a better future. Is this that future, Mom? One where you feel the need to scrutinize every choice I make? Tell me, are you still proud of me? He could see her shaking. He wanted to take back what he had said. He didn't. He did. He wasn't sure. He saw her lip quiver as blood slowly fell before flames licked the wound shut. Get out. Naruto blinked. He wasn't expecting that. She normally had a retort for every word he said. But this is what he wanted, wasn't it? He turned his head to Hinkawa, who was shaking behind him. Let's go. He didn't look back as he crossed the hall, or even when they entered to welcoming hall. He pushed the doors open and waded through the crowd, dodging every question that came or saying that there would be an announcement later. He'd prove her wrong. He was still her son. Rias was a little miffed. She hadn't given chase when Sigvera flew off the other night. She should have, because apparently something huge happened. The Phenex and Agar's clans were very tight-lipped, and her brother was trying to figure out just what went down. She of course had her own methods, which is why she was standing outside of the Agar's household waiting to be let in. She could enter under the guise of visiting Sigvera, and perhaps she would be able to worm something out of the heiress. After a few moments, Lady Agars opened the doors and looked down on her. Rias could feel those pink eyes searching her for something. What exactly she didn't know. I'm here to see Sigvera? Lady Agar's eyes narrowed. I am aware. You can come in, but she was busy last that I checked. I have nothing else planned for today. I am fine to wait. Of course you are. What did she mean by that? Either way, she followed the lady of the house through the waiting area. She saw that the servants appeared frantic. Did I come at a bad time? Lady Agars looked at the maids and gave 2 solid claps. Enough gossip, back to work please, she then turned to Rias. No. But you understand how devils are. Gossip has been said to end empires. Rias remembered her mother saying that once. She wasn't quite sure how, but it made sense, especially when it started to get political. They continued forward and moved towards Sigvera's room before passing it. Rias gave it a curious look but followed Lady Agars into an area she hadn't been before. The lights were dimmer yet warmer. The structure had become much more reinforced. They came to a large metal door that was socketed with a vast number of jewels. Rias was told to turn around and did as instructed. She heard the grinding of gears before something locked into place, and Lady Agars informed Sigvera that they had company. There was a small hushed bickering from Sigvera's side before Rias was told she could come in. She opened her eyes and turned around before taking step into what seemed to be a training ground. It was littered with scorch marks and scuffs that looked to be damaged from recent spells. Sigvera was in an outfit that Rias had never seen before. It was like a strange leotard mixed with a wrestler outfit. It did look to be pretty unrestrictive. She might have to look at one for herself. She eyed the others in the room, namely that strange cat girl she had heard about. She couldn't recall the name right now, but well, at least it was putting its clothes back on. The final one was Naruto Phenex. There were a lot of rumors floating around him at the moment, and Rias was quite pleased with the sight she was seeing. He wasn't dressed to train like Sigvera. Rather, his shirt was tossed to the side and he was in a pair of slacks and nothing else. There was a small cough that got Rias' attention. If you're quite done sizing up my future husband, hello? Rias gave a faint blush. It's good to see you all. Interesting outfit those Sikhs. Sigvera looked down at her attire before walking over and picking up Naruto's shirt and putting it on. She looked at Naruto, who had risen a brow. What, would you rather I catch a cold? Rias watched Naruto put his hand out to the side and summon his family crest before pulling out another shirt and putting it on. It's fine. Good to see you again, Sarisa. I hope you don't mind us using the training room a little? Rias saw that Lady Agars didn't even flinch at first name being used. Rias herself would never dare. Then again, she guessed that maybe it was different because of the situation between Naruto and Sigvera. She tried to picture calling Lady Phenex by her first name. It ended in her being roasted most of the time. It is always a pleasure to watch you drag my daughter out of her listlessness, Naruto. He rubbed the back of his head and gave a small chuckle. I do what I can. I am right here. Seek started. You can address me. Lady Agars turned to face her daughter and gave a faint smile. I am glad that your future husband is more active than you are. Now I'll leave you children alone. Lunch will be served in 2 hours if any of you are interested. Without waiting for a reply, she left. Rias waited. She felt out of place here. It was honestly kind of awkward watching as they gave each other quick pointers and what they were doing. She looked around for the cat and nearly jumped back in shock. It had crept up right beside her. Ned, you're Rias's wife, right? Not by my own choice, but yes. Wait, should she be so open with the cat? That might have been a mistake. The cat titled its head a little and looked at her. Those animistic eyes drilling through her. You don't want to? I would like a choice in the matter, honestly. Does that matter? To me it does. The cat stretched and gave a wide smile. It unnerved Rias, and she wasn't sure why. Did you choose to be born? No, Rias answered hesitantly. The smile grew wider. Did you choose to be an heiress? No. There are a lot of things we can't choose, aren't there? Naya haha. Rias narrowed her eyes on the cat. Was she set up? There is a difference. What is it? I don't agree with this choice. In an instant the smile faded and those golden eyes narrowed. You're wrong. Rias wasn't a fan of that. She went to retort only for Naruto to call the cat. It vanished from in front of her and was by his side before she could see the cat move. Sigvera appeared to have changed her outlook on the cat, at least from when they last talked about it. Something definitely happened. Rias watched Six actually pet the cat, who seemed rather happy at the interaction before Six started to come over. Sorry about that. You caught us in the middle of training and we wanted to share our thoughts before we lost them. Rias gave a small wave of her hand. That's understandable. Though it's odd to see you out and training. Did something happen? Sigvera crossed her arms under her chest and gave Rias a flat look. Really? Rias quickly held her hands up defensively. You can't blame me for trying. You'd do the same. Do you want me to tell her what happened, Naruto? No. The reply was almost instant, and Six just gave her a smug look and a shrug. There you go. Just like that, just like that. It felt odd. Everything about this was odd. Six would always whine about Naruto to her. Now though there was this trust, no, faith she had in him. Rias looked to Naruto and noticed there was something different about him. Those eyes of his used to be so full of joy. Now they felt critical. There was a faint glow, like a flickering fire. They were enticing, drawing her in. She broke away from his gaze and looked towards Sigvera. There was still that smug smile on her face. That's not all you came for, is it? It honestly was. She knew for sure that the Phenex were hiding something that the Agars were well and truly aware of. Rias could leave now. She had more information than when she came. Not much, but she had also played her hand really early and Sikhs had called her on it. It would be more difficult now, more so if they stayed together. She might be able to get Sikhs to trip up. She had no clue about how Naruto was with his words. She really hadn't spoken too much to any of the Phenex members. So she only knew from others how well versed they were. No one really spoke about Naruto in a battle of wit, and she could see a few reasons why that might be the case. He could be terrible and wasn't worth mentioning. He could be very, very good, or he could just not partake if one came up. Either way, she would be playing into a possibly dangerous zone, though she could also use Riser as an excuse to try and get him alone. That might be a good avenue. She'd play defensively. It was at first. Rias started with a cutesy smile. But if I can get one of the Phenex brothers alone, I might be able to find out some more about Riser. Rias could tell that Sikhs didn't appear convinced at all. Naruto, do you feel like talking to Rias about Riser? Rias looked at Naruto. The cat leaned up on her toes and whispered something to him before he blinked and looked at her. If that was what she wanted to talk about, sure. But Hinkawa smells deceit on her, so I'll pass. Rias looked back at Sikvera, who gave her a small shrug. Seems like you didn't hide your intentions well enough. A shame. Would have been fun to play around a bit. Sikvera gave a small shake of her head. You won't get to if Hinkawa is around. The girl can sense emotions and desires. Rias widened her eyes. That explained a fair bit about her interaction with the cat. It was also really good information that she could use. She gave a slight blow to Sikvera. Well, I guess then I'm done for the day. Play well, you three. The three gave her a quick goodbye and she left, feeling that near feral gaze from the cat on her the entire time. It was odd. She felt much more relaxed once she was out of there. Plus, while not much, she now knew to not attempt to gathering information while Hinkawa was around. That would be handy in the future. For now, though, she would consider it a very minor win. Wait, that's not the only thing. Sikvera checked with Naruto. Whatever happened must be under the jurisdiction of the Phenex, or at least the Agars is letting them handle it. That was also something. She frowned. It might be worth her while to visit Riser after all, though he was a dangerous one to try to fight with wit. Roval stood at attention, but his eyes were narrowed on the figure in front of him. Falbium Asmodeus. They were in the office of the Mao and for once he was awake. His full attention on Roval as he waited for the answer to his question. Is Naruto Phenex the Azure? Roval was aware that it was the burning question of the underworld at the moment. Everyone wanted to know if it was true, what the Phenex had been doing. Why hadn't they seen the brothers in so long? Roval stood up a little straighter and fixed his gaze on Falbium. Are you asking as Mao Asmodeus, or as my commanding officer, sir? Roval, you are a good soldier. The underworld views you as a hero for your deployments behind the Black Gate. The ability of the Phenex to fight back the corruption is something that is not to be understated. I am asking out of pure respect for your deeds. With due respect, sir. I believe that Mao made a vow to not interfere in the business of the clans so long as they worked for the betterment of the underworld and to treat all clans, even those they hailed from, with impartial fairness. Son, I am trying to find out for the betterment of the underworld. Sir, 2 days ago no more than 15 fallen angels broke into devil territory and attacked 2 clan heirs that were on a special request from Mao Leviathan. The heirs were left seriously injured and even after an application of Phenex tears they were not without injury. It might be for the betterment of the underworld if such an incident were properly looked into instead of covered up. Do you understand what you are saying, Roval? Roval gave a stern nod. I am saying that instead of the Phenex and Agar's clan receiving compensation and justice for the damage done to our heirs, we were instead thrust into the public light to obscure what happened to the citizens of the underworld. So, Roval, I am correct in thinking that you are suggesting that either myself or Mao Leviathan have tried to sweep what has happened under the carpet, and are using both the Phenex clan and Clan Agars as a scapegoat. The air in the room was tense, though it was nothing that Roval was not used to. Compared to dealing with the elders of the Phenex, this pressure was a slap on the wrist. That is correct. Roval, you are aware that such an accusation could make the Phenex clan enemies of the Mao, correct? I am well aware, sir. I would also like to use this private discussion to inform you that the Mao may have the sorry task of dealing with fallout that is still yet to come. As of yesterday, Lady and Lord Phenex entered into discussions with the yokai regarding the trade of Phenex tears, as it appears that the underworld and the Mao no longer believe their services are necessary, sir. Roval watched the eyes of Mao of military affairs widen. It would be interesting to see how their military would run without Phenex tears. In fact, it would likely cut the strength of it by half. Every soldier that he knew had at least one vial, giving them a near second chance at a mission, a fight. Sir, I believe it might be prudent to correct something you said earlier. Without proper resolvent of this situation regarding the heirs of Phenex and Agars, the Mao will make an enemy out of the Phenex, and I am sure the Agars will not be far behind. Not the other way around. We just want the protection and agreements that were spoken about when we helped to win the Mao their seats, sir. You are playing a dangerous game, Roval. Sir. With all due respect, the Phenex clan is not. What do you think that the Norse faction, or the Hindu faction would offer for the amount of tears we supply the underworld each year? He waited for the thoughts to circulate through Falbium's mind. Then there's rating games, sir. They have recently started to have a drastic increase in popularity, namely due to the allowance of Phenex tiers in high-stakes matches. How would you explain to the public that there would be a rewrite of their favorite pastime? There have even been reports of devils using tears to help with sexual reproductivity. A silence formed between the two as they watched one another. Eventually Falbium let his shoulders sag. Roval knew why. There was too much at stake. What does the Phenex clan want? I will have Lord and Lady Phenex draft up a contract. We will of course need our allies to check it, then we shall send it to the Mao, sir. Falbium gave a small nod. Very well, I will inform the Mao that a meeting will be had once the contract hits my desk. You may leave. Roval turned on his feet and headed to the door. Also, well played, Roval. Roval gave a small shake of his head. Sadly it wasn't, sir. The actions of your comrades have put you in a fragile position. With that he left. The guards on the other side of the door giving him a small salute as he passed. Was what he just did dangerous? Beyond a shadow of a doubt, yes. But it was needed. The Mao have been breaking their promises for a long time now, and they needed to be brought back into line. Still, maybe this type of win would get his mother out of her funk. He left the building and gave a tired sigh before sprouting his wings and heading home. He saw Raven in the garden and dropped down beside her. She didn't turn and just continued to look at the flowers. Do you know that I remember every flower you children planted? Her voice was soft, and she knelt down beside a patch. We don't see you in the garden all that much. No, I am hopeless when it comes to plants. But that doesn't mean that I don't know of them. Roval, do you remember what you planted with me? He thought for a while before shrugging. I think it was yellow, the yellow tulip. It means bright smile. You're not the only one. All of you children planted yellow flowers. Roval looked past her. There was more coming. She was not in front of a patch of yellow flowers. I sense a but coming. Do you remember what Naruto planted? You said it was interesting. He couldn't recall the conversation. I can't say that I do. The iris, I thought it was odd myself. Now though I find it wholly fitting. Do you know what the iris stands for? Mother, you know I don't. I never really was one for flowers. Faith, trust, wisdom, valor and hope. Roval pursed his lips together and looked at the flowers in front of her. They meant very little to him, but he wasn't sure he could say the same for his mother. You're thinking about your argument still? No. He is right. It does not mean that I have to like it, but he is right. I won't disallow the use of tears for his training, but I would feel better if he didn't use them. I will let him know when he chooses to return. Speaking of, Roval started, when you're done walking through the gardens. I believe I have something you might be interested in. Raven turned to face him with a curious glance. Falbium tried to push for information on the Azure. One thing led to another, and the Mao are waiting to hear our demands for the continued trade of Phenex tears in the underworld. Raven turned around fully and faced him. Her eyes closed for a moment, as a pleasant smile swam across her face. This is indeed something I am interested in. You'll have to tell me more. Sikvera looked at herself in the mirror. She reached down and felt around her stomach with a grimace. The past few days she had spent a fair bit of time with Naruto and Hinkawa training. That also meant she had spent a fair bit of time seeing the next to naked Hinkawa, and Six wasn't able to help but compare their bodies. There was a lot that went into it. Firstly, as fair as she knew, Hinkawa had not lived a life of luxury as she had. There was also their genetics and how Hinkawa fought. The cat was fast and agile. Hinkawa knew that and used it when sparring with her earlier. It had also showed her that despite her planning she needed to work on her actual skills when it came to combat. Which she was, but it would take time. It also did not help that there was a big event being hosted at the Phenex Castle in a few days, and she was feeling fat. Six could tell she could probably do with losing a little around her waist and stomach. Not much, just a little. Probably also tone up just a touch. She also didn't really want to think about the Phenex family at the moment. Each of them was stunning. She would admit to having the privilege of joining them for a beach day with the rest of her family. Riser and Ravel were the least atoned of the family, Ravel due to her age, but even still Riser had an attractive body. His personality could do with a little bit of work, but overall he was actually pretty good compared to most heirs out there. Naruto and Roval though, it was like getting a glimpse of her future, and she really enjoyed what she saw. Lord Phenex of course looked good for his age, but he just didn't have the same appeal as his children. When Sikvera saw Raven she understood why. Raven was plain unfair. Sikvera had tried to find a single flaw on the woman but there wasn't. She was perfect in every way. Even her damn ratios were perfect. She didn't even want to think what Ravel would look like in 10 years, that was a scary thought. If she took even closely after her mother then the Phenex brothers might have their hands full. Raven's perfect genes made her feel poorly about her own body. It didn't help that everyone told Sikvera how pretty she was, she needed to hear it from Raven. And that was a tough fact for her to swallow. Raven always called her adorable or cute, like a child. She wanted to be a walking wet dream for some horny teen like Lady Phenex, or fuck even Hinkawa. Naya haha, she could hear that cat mocking her even now. Wait. She blinked and saw Hinkawa in the reflection of the mirror. There was a wide smile on her face. Dirty thoughts. Seek Vera tried to purge them from her mind as she looked at the cat stretching itself out on her bed. It was difficult. She was still not a fan of Hinkawa's clinginess with Naruto, but she had grown to like the cat. Begrudgingly. A lot changed after seeing how hard it worked for everyone else's sake. Hinkawa, do you think about your own attractiveness often? The cat tilted its head and pursed its lip before giving a small shrug. Not really. If I feel fat, I run until I don't. Why? Could she really admit it to the cat? A part of her felt like it would be admitting defeat. At the same time, maybe Hinkawa would have a different view. Well, lately I've been feeling fat. She saw that Hinkawa looked rather excited and quickly added, I've tried running. A lot. I don't know, Lady Phenex controls my diet. Apart from the fish that the maids give me when I don't cause them trouble. Oh, it sucks you're not a phoenix, huh? The maids say that the fire body stuff makes them all really hot. That didn't help her at all. She felt her shoulders sag a little as she looked at the cat. It appeared that Hinkawa was still thinking. I remember some of them saying I was lucky. Oh yeah, Yulu said that peerage members gain hot bodies as well. Not like fire hot, but we heal a lot faster, causing us to burn more fat. Something about minor something or other. Seek Vera paused. Wait, the minor properties of a peerage? Like how the Gremry peerages are meant to gain a boost to their control over magic. If the Phenex peerages gain a minor regenerative property, that could greatly improve her ability to not only train, but if Hinkawa was remembering right, maybe even shed this bit of fat she wanted gone. Then there were also the benefits she would get from Naruto's Queen Piece, getting a boon to all of her attributes. This was honestly seeming to be a better and better deal for her. Where is Naruto at the moment? Sparring with Ruvel, that's why I'm here. Ruvel is here? The thought of the older Phoenix boys topless and wreathed in flames flickered through her head. Dirty thoughts, Naya haha. I think I'm allowed to have dirty thoughts of my husband-to-be. Or does that bother you? Hinkawa tilted her head to the side. Do they include me? Fuck, they did now. Damn it. Wait, was her tongue like a cat's? No, bad Sikhs. No. She kept trying to push them out, but a new and different image came in each time. She could not deny that the thought of Hinkawa devouring her wasn't enticing, though being a Seek Vera sandwich between Hinkawa and Lady Phenex also appeared, and that one was much naughtier. How the hell was she supposed to face her mother-in-law now? She blinked. Hinkawa was really close. She could feel that cat's breath against her skin. Nah, Thai girl, stop please. She needed time to think, time to clear her head. Do you want a kiss? Maybe later. Wait, later than Seek. Seek Vera blinked as Hinkawa walked out of her room, leaving her with a stupefied expression on her face. The cat had beaten her. That wasn't fair at all. Hinkawa cheated. She attacked Seek Vera in the places she was weak. Seeks looked down. At least she was wearing panties. Wait, not even Naruto had seen her this nude yet. Quickly she got dressed fully, before heading out to find him, also to give Hinkawa a piece of her mind about playing dirty like that. Using her ability to sense desire and continuing to push Seek's buttons was not fair, not in the slightest, and you know what? No, Naruto could listen to her gripe about something for once. She deserved it. With a graceful haste she made her way down and entered the observation area. Inside the training area she saw Naruto and Ruvel appearing as flashes of light and streaks of flaming energy as they chased and clashed around the room. There was a break in the sparks, and she watched the brothers land across from each other as their bodies were quickly pieced back together by their respective flames. Her eyes narrowed. It was no joke that Ruvel was incredibly strong. He was a top ranker in rating games, so to her this was a cut and dry fight. Ruvel would win every time. Still, she did like the chance to try and learn little tips and trick from these high-speed clashes. Ruvel? Yeah, Naruto? Your incineration fist, have you ever tried to make it more than a fist? She watched as Ruvel rose a brow before starting to panic as Naruto took a stance. She hadn't seen this one before. What was he going to show? She leaned forward, nearly pressing her face against the glass only for Naruto to start laughing. Sorry, but nah, I can't do that yet. I can only get a dozen or so seconds out of your incineration fist before I'm tuckered. Ruvel cleared his throat and stretched out. Okay, show me. Your fist against mine. Seek Vera was now fully on board with this. She watched Ruvel's fist turn to molten rock as fire licked up his arm. The rating game announcers say that this technique is only beaten in offensive potential by power of destruction, but it was incredibly draining, at least from her understanding. Naruto took another stance and let out a slow breath. The ground beneath him splintered and she could feel the flux of energy from here. This was not refined at all. Ruvel's looked almost natural, well-crafted, polished. Her husband-to-be would of course brute force his way to the same level. There was a flash of blue, and when Seeks could see again there was a ring of flaming blue feathers acting as a mantle on Naruto that flowed down his right arm, turning it into a blazing white-hot flame. No wonder you can't hold it for long. That isn't incineration fist. That's something else. No time to talk. Naruto shouted out before vanishing again in a blur of speed. She caught the brief pause when he appeared again and thrust his fist forward. She was grateful that Ruvel dodged. The Phenex regeneration was amazing, but when Naruto punched it was like an explosion happens at the apex of the punch. Ruvel was right. This was a different ability. She'd watched Rival's games enough to know his technique needed to directly touch the opponent, but if it did, it would literally melt through them. She watched Rival cleave up a portion of the training ground as his hand melted into the floor in order to dodge another blast from his younger brother, which broke apart the torn-up cover. The two brothers landed on opposite sides of the ground, each crouched with the flaming arms back before charging forward and clashing in the center. There was a brilliant explosion out past Rival as the fist his, and she watched a portion of him reform from flame. They weren't budging. They were evenly matched. She couldn't pull her eyes away. That was until Naruto's flame started to flick and a quick "oh shit" was yelped out before his flames vanished entirely, and Rival punched off a large part of his torso. Sigvera shook her head, trust him to lose track of time for his own technique. Rival let out a low whistle as Naruto slowly reformed. So, got a name for that thing yet? Naruto seemed to crack his neck back into place before shaking his head. No. I thought it was just Incineration Fist. Nah. I'll tell you now, I don't think I'd be able to hold that for too much longer than you. That is crazy nasty. Is there a limit to the explosion? She saw Naruto clench his fist and aim it a few times. The amount of energy I have really. I was just trying to catch you so they were smaller, but I can fire it almost like a beam. That takes a lot of me though, I bet. Well, I guess all I can say is congrats, you accidentally made an S-rank technique. In a few years that will really be something to be feared, you know, provided you can get the time up to at least a minute or work out the defensive issues. Sigvera started to head down into the training room at this point, while they drew closer and continued their talk. Hinkawa was of course close behind. Sigvera, always a pleasure to see my sister-in-law. The same to you, Rival. I see that you two thoroughly enjoyed destroying my training room. The brothers looked around before rubbing the backs of their heads. We'll pay for it. Anyway, sis, did you see Naruto's new move? Sigvera blinked. The Rival Phenex was addressing her as sis. Well, it would be true in time. Even still, that would take some getting used to. I did. I swear his recklessness knows no bounds. As for the name, well, judging by the way that it explodes and ignites. Why not Combustion Fist? She offered and could see the brothers testing the name a few times. You honor us with your elegance, Lady Sigvera, Rival offered playfully. Yes, praise me all you want. But if I may have a moment with Naruto, I believe I still owe him something. She feels fat and wants to become your queen, so she isn't. Hinkawa did not help. Sigvera quickly looked to the two brothers. Naruto looked like he didn't know what to do. He could defend her. She would like that. But at least it was better than Rival, who was trying his best not to laugh. That is not the only reason, but I do consider that a large benefit. I mean, no offense, but the Phenex clan is remarkable athletic despite not many of you actually training. She would attempt to play it off a little. None taken, sis. But yeah, maybe we should start advertising that for our peerages. Might make recruitment easier in some cases. Join the Phenex and become the new you. Or something like that. And people say I need to take things seriously, muttered her husband-to-be. Rival though just laughed his comment off. Well, I'll leave you three to do teenage things. Don't do anything that I wouldn't. Oh, also, Naruto. Mom isn't angry anymore, but you might want to talk to her when you come back. Yeah? Tell her I'll be back for dinner. Oh, also Hinkawa, can you go back with Rival? I need to talk to Sigvera for a bit, and you can be pretty distracting at times. Hinkawa narrowed her eyes on Sigvera for a moment before shrugging. Okay, no more dirty thoughts though, Seek. Sigvera rubbed at her brow. It was moments like these she remembered why she disliked the cat. Well, maybe not disliked, more like could remember why the cat infuriated her. I'll be fine, thank you, Hinkawa. Okay, bye. Also, you still need to see me later, Nyahaha. Seeks threw out a small ball of demonic energy which the cat of course dodged before running through the hall. Rival following after her, that just left her with Naruto. She turned her full attention back to him, and that bead of sweat running down the side of his neck. The moment she properly tracked it, the thing was swallowed in a flash of blue flames, and he was fully dressed and groomed. That was cheating. On-the-fly wardrobe repair was a skill that any devil would kill for. But no, the Phenex get it alongside their stupid perfect looks. Damned Raven. What was that about? He asked. Oh, nothing. She quickly waved it off before taking a step closer. You are going to sort things out with your mother, right? Seeks watched him sigh before slowly nodding. Yeah, you know it is only because she was worried about you, right? Yeah. I think we both just got heated. The past few days have been tense. It is true, she agreed. I have to go back to Kyoto soon. You interested? She gave a faint smile. Nice change of topic, but yes. I will accompany you. You can invite Rias as well if you want. Her smile fell. Why? Because she has that obsession with their culture, doesn't she? Plus she'll become our sister-in-law one day. I refuse. She watched him give a small shrug. That's fine. It was just an offer. I thought you might get bored as I have to talk to the yokai. They want a full explanation regarding Hinkawa becoming a devil. Sigvera had forgotten about that. She pursed her lips. On one hand, she would be alone in Kyoto for a time while the talks happened, or even in the room no doubt bored as they tried to talk each other in circles. On the other hand, having Rias along for the trip would be little more than a constant thorn in her side as the redhead tried to drag them off to see every sight. Seeing as I am your queen and in the future your wife, it might be prudent that I attend, lest they give you another cat girl to look after. You're not my queen yet? She narrowed her eyes on him. Is there something wrong with your evil pieces? No? Then why don't we just get this out of the way then? He gave a small nod and summoned his pieces. With a care that she wasn't used to seeing from him, he pulled the queen out and handed it to her. She had seen the orange piece before, but she took it and watched it nearly come to life in her hands. There was a blue flame inside that flickered, the piece itself was warm, comforting, and she could feel a power hidden within. They're different from when I saw them last, she muttered out before returning the piece to him. Yeah. I noticed that too. It feels like things are changing so fast at the moment that I can barely keep up anyway. Are you ready? She gave him a stern nod as he unsummoned the other pieces, holding only the queen in his hands. On the name, Naruto Riven Phenex, I put forth a hand of accord. Do you, Sigvera Violet Agars, accept the position of queen within my peerage, the responsibilities that come with it, and the assistance that we will provide you? On the name, Sigvera Violet Agars, I accept the responsibilities and assistance that come with the position offered. The queen responded and started to float from Naruto's hands towards her. It struck her chest with a warmth before lowering itself beneath her skin. It took a few moments for it to settle within her, and then it happened. There was a surge of strength within her, and this warmth that spread through her body. It was like being wrapped in a fuzzy blanket on a winter's night. It made sense now, Hinkawa's sudden boost in strength and speed. She barely noticed that Naruto had caught her, and she looked at him. This was him, his power inside of her. You okay? Oh dear, she could feel his concern, his worry coming through the piece. She had to mentally steady herself. If it went both ways, she could be in big trouble. Hinkawa was enough, but if her feelings started broadcasting to Naruto, she wasn't sure if she would live through the embarrassment. She took a moment to clear her head before reaching up and touching the side of his cheek. I'm fine, it will just take some getting used to. Speaking of which, I plan to do so. Thus you should go patch things up with your mother. Are you sure? Absolutely. I have never felt better, but now I just need to get used to my body again, and I would prefer that you weren't around for that. At least not yet. She saw him nod and gingerly take a step back, allowing her onto her feet again. She could feel the certainty in her own stance. Yeah, this would take some time. Okay, if you insist. I'll see you at the ball then, if not before. I'd say come early as mother will no doubt want to shower you with prize before we make our entrance. But you probably already knew that. We'll talk more about Kyoto then. Yes. Now go play nice. She shooed him off, to which he gave her the most curious of looks before vanishing in the Phenex teleportation circle. The moment he left, she stripped down. Fuck, the cat was right. The extra weight was all gone. She had expected that, but not instantly. Not to mention she could see some tone on her body. Damn, those Phenex were good. She paused and slowly brought her hands up to her breasts. Yep, they were a little bigger too. Her butt was a little tighter, everything about her a little better. Sigvera shook her head. She should have done this years ago, for now though she needed to get some practice in. Surzex looked from the paper to Falbium and back. He did this thrice before letting out a tired sigh. They're up to something. Falbium let his shoulders sag as he looked at the bottles on the shelf. Surzex was of the same mind and grabbed a couple of glasses along with them. As he sat back down, his friend started up. Seraphal stepped on their toes. She went against the oath we swore when we came in, that we would stay out of clan politics and remain impartial. The Azure, most definitely, falls under clan politics. Let's just be thankful that they didn't ask for her head. We wouldn't agree to that. I want to stop you there, Surzex. Falbium was oddly serious for a private discussion, and Surzex wasn't too sure it was a good thing. We do have a ceasefire with the Angels and Fallen factions, but there are other forces out there that would be all too happy to swoop in and destroy us. The old Satan faction, the Hindu faction if we sneeze wrong on their land. There is a long list. Now, when was the last time you checked my military budget? I don't. I leave that in your capable hands. That's the point. Our military is on the verge of collapse. If an attack were to come tomorrow, I would have a better chance asking for help on the streets. I didn't think we were that bad off. Why didn't you say anything? Falbium took a sip of his drink and stared at Surzex. Because 8 of the 13 clans that signed this stupid document are keeping it afloat. He pointed to the small packet on the table. It really was small, and that is what had him worried. 12 of the remaining 32 pillar families would side with the Phenex over us. I have no doubt that there is more. These are just the ones that the Phenex trusted. So we just give them what they want, that's it, no discussion. Surzex, just look at who signed it. Surzex checked. There was the Baal and Agars, and shortly after them was his own family, along with Seraphals. This wasn't good. The Phenex were really showing their strength here. He couldn't imagine his father signing this willingly. Then again, with pressure from the elders and his mother's political mind, they must believe that this is the right choice. He could understand what Falbium was saying, but it just didn't sit right with him. I have no problem with promoting them to the rank of Duke. Honestly, they deserved it before this mess. But this will put Serafal in the firing line. She's a dear friend, Surzex, but she kicked the hornet's nest to cover her own ass. It will call her credibility into question, not just in our faction, but in others as well. So would losing nearly half of our remaining noble families. I don't know how Ajuka will take it. I already spoke to him, and he is fine. He said that this is the way that provides the least issues. Surzex took a sip of his drink and looked at it, a frown on his face. I just don't can. Surzex, it is a fucking public apology for endangering the heirs and heiresses, your precious sister among them, along with a formal inquiry into her actions the past year. This is a damn slap on the wrist. They could have asked for so much worse. It's a warning, telling us to get ourselves in check? Next time won't be so nice. Also, think about your future here, man. What do you mean? Your sister is slated to be married into the Phenex. Do you want to be causing a stir here? Surzex paused. He would admit he had forgotten that Rias was to be wed to Riser. The talk about it these days was minimal. Everyone seemed focused on Sigvera and Naruto. Which was good, it gave his sister time to try and figure a way out, but thinking on it now, if he signed this, he would be signing away her fate as well. The Gremry and Phenex would be on equal standing, at least in rank. Falbium was right though, the tears that they provided and sold made them much more powerful than their rank alone. Hells, this document enough proved that. In a few years they would be worse. The Phenex had of course told them that they were grooming the next Azure, but hid who exactly it was. It didn't stop rumors spreading, and there was a lot directed at both Naruto and Riser, no thanks to Serafal in that regard. Still, the public would side with the Azure. Then with Agars marrying into the Phenex and Gremry, possibly, doing the same, it would be dangerous. Very, very dangerous to make a direct move, and if Riser happened to be the Azure, Rias would have nothing but difficulty in trying to break her contract on all sides. With his thoughts somewhat organized, Surzex let his shoulders sag. How long do we have to sign it? If we have not agreed to their requests by the day following their announcement ball, they will consider it a sign of noncompliance. He nodded. If we play this right, we can keep most of it from the public and also remove questions around events. Surzex, please don't tell me you're trying scheme now? No. But if after or before they announce the Azure we afford them the rank of Duke, then talk to them in private about having Serafal's apology be the next week, we can make it seem like less of a conjoined incident. He saw Falbium sigh. Look, do what you want, I for one will play by the rulebook here. They've told us how they want it handled. If you try something different, I'll dust my hands of you. So cold, I thought we were friends, Surzex tried playfully. Falbium at least gave him a smile. We are, but I won't let you destroy the underworld so that you can keep your popularity, Falbium stated before finishing his drink and standing up. This conversation went about as well as Ajuka said it would. Look, Surzex. If those pillars leave, we're fucked. If they join the old Satan faction or not, the old Satan faction will breeze through us. Where does your loyalty lie, to yourself or the underworld? Maybe think about that for a bit. Surzex watched his friend leave. Really, he needed something stronger to drink, but Falbium was right. The best choice for the underworld itself was to let the Phenex take control of the situation, but that did not sit right with him. There was something odd about this. He couldn't put his finger on it, but something felt off. There was a flicker of darkness on the other side of his desk before black feathers slowly drifted to the ground. He looked up to see the smug grin of Azazel. This is really not a good time for one of your visits. The old man gave a hearty laugh as he sat down. I heard up to your neck after that little mishap, aren't you? This is your fault, you know. Azazel gave a shrug. I offered to give my condolences along with reimburse the families, but you guys said you had another plan. I would say you chose the wrong option. Surzex let out a sigh. Azazel was right, they had turned him down. And if you were in my position now, honestly? Surzex nodded, take the deal. Because I am sure I am not the only faction leader outside of the Devils that got an invite to this announcement ball, and if you say no, well, not going to lie, I'm going to try to poach them. Is that really wise to tell me? No, but you wanted honesty. Plus, do you think Odin is going to give two shits? He's been trying to get them to sell him tears for decades. Then there is the Celts and the Greeks. Plus it's a slap on the wrist. They didn't ask for Serafal's removal from office, just a public apology and an inquiry on her actions. If she's done nothing else wrong, she'll be fine. Or are you saying that you can't trust she hasn't? I want to say she hasn't, but I don't know. What if she has swept other things under the rug and just no one has called her out? Azazel just gave a shrug of his shoulders. Well, take the gamble then. Who knows, maybe they are bluffing, but are you willing to risk that? Anyway, was just dropping in to let you know that I am visiting the Phenex. Gotta go say sorry for my faction being naughty and all that, plus check out the Azure. You know who it is, don't you? Azazel gave a wide smile. The brat nearly toasted me. He ain't anything to joke about. I take it you don't feel like sharing. Look, I'll tell you if you can get me half as hard as Lady Phoenix's glare did. Like damn, I want that woman to step on me. I would call her mommy. Surzex just hung his head. Yeah, I'm good, just go get blue-balled. You know I will. Naruto fiddled with his outfit for the umpteenth time, it just wouldn't sit right. He had to admit, while he had missed the tailor after his fight with his mother, the emergency one she called did excellent work. If only he could get the damn thing to sit right. He was stuck in front of the mirror adjusting the capping of his shoulders. They were meant to make him look a little wider, plus act as some cool extension for his ability. In short, it would become a cape made of flames, which he thought was really cool. The rest of the outfit was white with blue and gold trims littered over to give a more formal and regal feeling. Sigvera sighed and came over. She stood him up straight and made the small adjustments to his shirt and shoulders. Better? Much, thank you. He had to say she looked stunning. He had been the only one to see her since her helpers had finished getting her ready. He wasn't complaining now that he saw the finished result, but at the time he thought that 12 people helping one get dressed may have been a bit much. He also needed to be in the room for some reason. It wasn't until she was finished that he saw why. Some of them had been tailors designing her dress on the fly to match his. He had to give her kudos on that. He really hadn't thought how much trouble him waiting until last minute would cause her. Still, her dress was white, and when she took his arm their trims of gold and blue flowed into one another to create designs of fluttering birds. It stopped just above her breasts and hugged them tightly before flowing down to the floor. Apparently it was easy enough to walk in and Naruto would just have to take her word for it. From the back of her dress was a veil of blue silk that had white stitched through it to look like flames as she moved along with the crowning touch of phoenix feathers in her hair to hold it in place. If your eyes are done roaming my body, perhaps you can listen for when we are called? She quietly mused as she touched his cheek. Naruto gently took her hand. Or we could just run away into the night and forget about this. No chance. Your mother would kill me and then you for such a thing. You do look amazing though. I know, and you're welcome. Naruto knew his siblings were in a similar situation. Both of them finishing getting dressed and waiting to be called. He heard Revel get called, and he just hoped Hinkawa had kept her dress on as she escorted the girl down. His mother and her had spent hours arguing over what she would wear. Raven wanted something long and flowing and Hinkawa wanted something short and easy to move in. They came to a compromise, and it was a simple black and gold dress that came to around her knees in length. There was a pinch at his arm that snapped him back, and he saw those pink eyes of Seek starting him down. Do try not to wander, everyone will be watching us tonight. Plus, I want to show you off. It isn't every day that I can get you to actually dress up. Most of my friends see you topless more often than not. That is not my fault. No, I do believe it is. Can't you just use that as another method to show me off? He watched her think about that for a moment, and saw her blink. The blue makeup on her eyelids was something he hadn't noticed before. Or the faint dusting of gold dust across her cheeks. I suppose, but I would prefer to keep such views to myself, so that I can savor them in their plenty. He saw her narrow her eyes on him. Are you saying that you don't think of me topless from time to time? This was bait, he knew it. But also knew he could only give one answer. Of course. How could I not? They're better than your imagination. People say I have a pretty active one. Oh, I guess you don't need to feel them then? He paused and she noticed if her giggle was anything to go by. I'm just playing. Let us see how well you behave tonight, He looked her up and down and gulped. Yes, let's. As if on cue he heard them announced, and the doors opened. Seeks leaned into him and whispered, Don't use your cape until I squeeze your arm. He nodded and stepped out with her on his arm. He felt stiff and felt her rub his arm softly. Look forward, but focus on me. You'll be fine, my big brave phoenix. It was helping, but he could still feel the eyes of everyone on him as they slowly rounded his parents and moved to the stairs. They were listing his short accomplishments, his studies, his relationship with Sigvera along with his peerage members and the joining of the clans. There was a faint squeeze on his arm and he let the fire inside flow to the cape. Then they announced it, him being the Azure. He could hear a pin drop in that moment. It unsettled him. He felt her squeeze again, and he looked to Seeks as she smiled at him. That warm, playful smile as she grabbed something from behind her back, and he watched his cape wrap around her. There was a gasp from the crowd as her entire outfit transformed. Her dress was now made of his flames, the trim shone brightly underneath, and showed birds fluttering through the fire overtop a young version of him and her under a tree. The feathers in her hair turned a brilliant orange with a faint blue flame in the center. He knew he was staring. Hell, he was sure everyone was staring. Now scoop me up and carry us to the stage, just below the chandeliers. He was mesmerized by her, and just did as she asked. He looped an arm under her legs and supported her back before flying through the air as she leaned into him. Spread your wings wide, let the people feel your power. He did. He let his energy out as the tiny blue embers fell from his extended wings. The people watching in awe as they crossed the room. He took the stage behind his brothers and their partners who were clapping. Revel, of course, let out a long whistle as they approached. He looked out over as little nets had caught some embers holding them in the air while the chandeliers had taken the color of his flames, basking the room in a dull blue glow. He watched as Sigvera slowly drew something around her. It was a long white staff with gold wrappings coming to a basket weave at the top where a small blue fire flickered bright. Hold it with me, and tap twice. He did as instructed and widened his eyes as every member of the serving staff let out a roar of fire into the air. Everyone had come together on this, and just left him in the dark. For that he was thankful. He wasn't sure he would remember his speech if he had all this to worry about as well. His mother gave a small bow to him and a microphone slowly started to ascend from the stage floor. He looked around at the room, There was a lot of people here, from everywhere. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to celebrate with us, he started. His voice was a little dry, but he would do his best. He felt Seeks gently rub his arm to remind him she was there. I'm not really one for showmanship myself, but it seems between my future wife and my mother that I won't have a problem with that. There were a few chuckles and a couple whistled. But yes, I am the Azure, sorry Roval, I win this time? He gave a nod to Roval, who just lamented his woes overdramatically. He really did cherish his brothers. And Riser, I hope that you'll continue to balance out my wild ways, as mother would put it. Riser gave him a deep bow. To my darling sister and devoted father, it is your support that allows me to keep going, along with the prodding from Sikvera. He felt a small pinch in his arm. I know I am meant to be your hope, but I can't do it alone. So I want all of you to join me, help you make this world better than we received it. Other than that, I look forward to seeing and talking to you further tonight. So without further ado, let us begin. He unsummoned the microphone and banners started to roll down from the ceiling, showing the clans that were allied to the Phenex, with Agars and the Phenex being by the stage as the children all took a bow, himself and Sikvera included. A curtain was slowly drawn around them to allow some privacy as they descended. Seeks, are you okay? It doesn't hurt, does it? He was grabbing her all over and she lightly swatted at him. It's fine, truly. Stop your worrying, it doesn't hurt. I swear. XXXXXXXX. Sikvera felt her heart racing. Yes, she had planned it out with Lady Phenex, but she didn't expect it to go just that smoothly, especially with such short notice. As they rounded the curtain to take to the floor, she maintained grip on Naruto's arm with his flame still dancing through her dress. She looked to the others, Hinkawa and Ravel rushing off to the dance floor once the band started to play. It was strange, the three brothers so different yet so similar. Each with their queen on their arm, each confident in their own ways, each tricksters, each playful. It was like their own secret little club. She thought about Rias for a moment. Would she remove Eubelina from this? How would it work then? That would change how the underworld viewed them, the kings and queens of Phenex. To be fair, appearance was important. Especially for the nobles. They had to maintain an image of perfection at all times. Changes to it could upset the general public. It was something that bothered her greatly. Because she hadn't tried to stay as fit as the others her age, she was on a strict diet. Things were changing now, but it didn't help that constant compulsion she had to make sure she looked as good as she always could. Her queen piece helped a great deal, but it would not fix all of her problems. It was not so much a shallow thing, it was a station thing. If she looked weak, it would reflect her house and husband-to-be. If she looked untidy, people might think she doesn't care. So as heiress to the Archduke, she needed to be perfect, always, and that was a draining task. It was only in those brief moments away from the public eye, away from others watching, that she could truly be Sikvera. She saw Lord and Lady Phenex at the front of the line to approach the siblings. Roval and Riser went in different directions, leaving Naruto to speak to the people, and by proxy her. Rovan stepped forward with Raven right next to him, each giving a small bow before father and son shook hands. Meanwhile, Raven eyed her for a moment. You have truly grown into a beautiful woman. Hopefully your wit is enough to keep my biggest troublemaker out of too much of it. I will try my best, mother. She nearly froze. She'd just been a little too happy about receiving the words she had wanted so desperately from this woman that she blurted it out. Raven, though, smiled through it, warmly. It was like a whole new side she was seeing to this woman, and it did absolutely nothing to dwarf her beauty. A little early, but I will allow my daughter to show such dedication if she so desires. Thank you. No need to be bashful, my dear. This is as much your day as it is his. Raven motioned her head towards Naruto, who looked up from his conversation with his father. Do behave for Sikvera now. Yes, mother. Raven gave him a small nod before returning her gaze to Sikvera. You are truly a jewel tonight, and you wear your responsibilities quite openly and proudly. I have no doubt your parents are proud of you, Sikvera. Also, well done on the execution. No, that praise goes to you and yours. To get such a thing ready in such short notice, you are too kind. Now I believe that you two will be quite busy. Do you plan to stay the night, or will you be returning home? Sikvera put a finger to her lip in mock thought. I believe that depends on the actions of our Azure here. Very well, there are plenty of others that want your attention, so we must unfortunately cut this shorter than I would like. Rovan, we need to pester our other children. Rovan stepped back from his talk with Naruto and looked towards her with a warm smile. You are truly a sight to behold tonight, Sikvera. My son is a lucky man. She looked to Naruto and squeezed his arm lightly. It was comforting, a way to remind her that he was there. I think we are both lucky, Lord Phenex. The Phenex leaders left, and Seeks saw that long line that had formed behind them. They were going to be in for a long night. Thankfully, most of them were just platitudes and assurances of working together with both the Phenex and the Agars. Sikvera was a little put out that her parents hadn't seen them, but also thankful. She just wanted to get through everyone as quickly as possible. It did look like they were getting to the end of the clan heads as Lord and Lady Gremory approached. Seeks, are you okay? She turned her face to Naruto and felt the world spin a little. I'm just lightheaded. I may not have quite thought out how hot this outfit would be after a while. He gave her a small nod and looked down the rest of the line. I'm sorry everyone, but we will be taking a small break after Lord and Lady Gremory to do a wardrobe change. As much as I might not like to admit it, this cape is not good for dancing with you all." She heard some disappointment, but for the most part people seemed to understand. They had been on fire in the same spot for nearly an hour doing meet and greets with small discussions to open up broader trade agreements and political alliances. It was tiring for herself, and she figured that Naruto would be bored out of his mind, but he still seemed as switched on as when they started. She felt a flash of fire over her as the sweat that had started to pool in pockets of her dress quickly vanished before her energy started to come back to her. She spared Naruto a glance and saw him give her a small wink. Honestly, she didn't need his help, but she was grateful for it. They turned to Lord and Lady Gremory and gave them a smile, causing them to approach. Lord Gremory was the first to speak up. "Lucky us, huh? There is no luck involved. The Phenex never forget their friends." "Lord and Lady," Naruto replied quickly and gave them a small bow. Sikvera was not far behind him. "The Agars share the sentiment. We take great pride in remembering how we got to where we are. Such well-spoken children, mayhaps we should have Rias spend more time with you in order to broaden her manners?" Lady Gremory spoke. Sikvera didn't like where this was going. Lord Gremory rubbed his beard before giving a nod. "It would do her well. Speaking of, she has been pestering me lately about the marriage contract." She really did not like where this was going. "Is there something wrong with the contract in place?" Naruto questioned. Sikvera watched the Lord and Lady carefully. It was rather bold of them to try and corner him like this. She brought up an excellent point. Would it not be better for the underworld if a Gremory, with the power of destruction, were to carry the child of the Azure? The chance of those two powers mixing along with our control over magic could make for a very bright future. Lord Gremory was good. He was attacking at the very point that Naruto brought up in his speech. Sikvera kept her smile in place, but she felt tense. When Naruto gently put his hand atop hers, she relaxed and felt her hands slowly relax the death-like grip she had on his arm. She would apologize later, maybe. "I can see your point, Lord Gremory," Naruto started, and she felt her heart freeze. "Though sadly I have no answer to give you here, as I am not involved in that contract. If you want to bring this matter to my parents, I am sure that they will be able to give you a proper discussion after talking it over with the Agars clan, so that we can all find a place where we feel happy about moving forward together." The two Gremory seemed to think it over and shared a look with one another. "We may have to do so in the future. For now, though, do enjoy your night, and we look forward to the change you will bring." Lord Gremory gave a small bow. His wife followed after him while speaking. "Until we see each other again." Sikhs waited until they vanished into the crowds before looking to Naruto. She was impressed. He wasn't pressed at all. He quickly and politely shut them down while affirming that it was not such a simple matter as him saying yes. She supposed that she could give him a small treat as she leaned in against him. He held her a little tighter. "This way Mum will ask your opinion on it. I figured that was better than them trying to cut you out. You are learning. Now, can we please get changed?" "Yes, as soon as I remember how to move my legs. I think I'm stuck." "You're not the only one. XXX. Hinkawa needed to get outside. She asked Ravel to come with her, which she was thankful for. She was tasked with protecting Ravel tonight. That was clear. I mean, it made sense. With her ability to tell what people were thinking, it would be real helpful. But she needed a break. There were so many feelings and emotions in that room that it was starting to get to her. It was like everyone was yelling constantly. As she stepped outside with Ravel and the doors closed behind her, she tightened her grip on the young heiress and narrowed her eyes. There was someone else here. She quickly looked around to see that dirty old man that was talking with Naruto yesterday. There was nothing but dirty thoughts about every woman that walked past him. She was just glad that Ravel was not involved. Hinkawa watched as he slowly rose his hands. "I don't mean any harm, just came out here to escape the looks inside." He was already seated and out of view from the main hall. It lined up, but it still didn't sit right with her. She didn't trust this man. Hinkawa looked to Ravel. "Go to Lady Phenex and stay with her. Quickly now." She would have to praise the girl at a later date. She just nodded and ran off without question. Hinkawa watched her enter and cross the hall. Once she was standing by Raven, Hinkawa could let out a breath. "Trust me, I don't want to get on the wrong side of the Phenex. The thing is, I don't trust you." She saw him shrug. "Must have good instincts then. Normally my charm gets people to let their guard down. You're a creepy old man that wants Lady Phenex to step on him." "Oh? A mind reader perhaps. That would explain why you're guarding the young heiress. A smart move. Would rather be with Naruto," she muttered out and leaned against the railing. She understood that tonight was meant to be all showy and stuff, but she just wanted to cuddle with him. Was that wrong? She'd let Seek join in too, but this was too much. Her head hurt. I'm sure most of the young ladies in that room and even some of the older ones would want to trade places with little Miss Agars. Hinkawa knew this man from somewhere. She had sensed him before. She thought that when he met with Naruto, but now that she was with him for a while, yes, she remembered feeling him. "I've met you before." She felt him tighten his defenses. "I was here yesterday." "No, before that. You're a fallen, aren't you? Guilty as charged, I'm afraid." "Don't worry, I didn't attack you guys. I was there to punish those that did, but you all cleaned them up pretty well." "That's what I was talking to the young lord about yesterday." Thank you then." "What for?" Without you I wouldn't be his knight. It felt a little weird, but she did feel grateful for it. He felt uncomfortable. Well, you're welcome, I guess. So what did you and Naruto talk about? Surprise and defense? Oh, not much. Mostly the usual I'm sorry it won't happen again shtick. Deceit. You're hiding something. Really? I thought I did that pretty well. Didn't even let it show outside. You don't need to, she answered tiredly. Sometimes this ability was a real pain. She saw so many things and felt so many others that she didn't want to. He let out a small hum. Well, how about this? You tell me how your ability works, and I'll tell you what we talked about. Oh, a trade? Lady Phenex says she shouldn't give anything for free, so this would be good, right? She would be getting something in return for giving something. She'd be happy with that, right? I just hear things like deceit, arousal, surprise, honest, protect. But like if I focus it I can see what they're thinking about. Oh? Surprise, curious. Well, try focusing on me. She did. It was blurred for a moment before she saw it clear as day. He hadn't lied, but they had talked about a lot more. Azazel, this man, wanted to do something to make it up to Naruto. Naruto gave him some strange thing that she didn't understand and he looked really happy about it. Said it would be a challenge, but he was looking forward to it. Building something for Naruto. She pursed her lips. You're building something for his arms? He tapped his nose. Spot on. There is a bit more to it, but that is all technical stuff that I don't want to bore you with. That power of yours, though, is really strong. Can you turn it off? She shook her head. Well, if you don't mind, when Naruto comes to visit me I could have a look to see if we can't fix that for you. She snapped her gaze to him with a small snarl. Don't worry. I won't do anything if you don't want me to, and I'd make sure you could turn it back on. She relaxed. That actually sounded nice. She could get peace and quiet, and no longer have these fuzzies constantly. It seems like the idea isn't completely unwanted. Hinkoa narrowed her eyes on the man. Why? Confusion. Why, what exactly? Why are you offering to help? Understanding. Regret. I want to say sorry. I fancy myself a bit of an inventor, so when I see situations that are like yours or Naruto's, a little part of me gets really excited trying to think of a way to help you guys out. Honest. Excited. I think I get it. You are helping yourself by helping us, right? Guilt. More or less. Oh, might be time for me to move on. It seems you have company. Hinkoa watched as vanished in a cloud of black feathers just as she felt that warm aura she was so used to wash over her. She turned around as Naruto stepped out with a glass in each hand. His fire cape was gone, now it just looked like he had these strange metal cappings on his shoulders. I thought I felt you out here. Concern. Relief. Yep. There's too many voices inside. Tell me about it. He was tired. He came to lean against the rail next to her and handed her one of the drinks. Only a few more hours left. Hinkoa slumped on the rail and let out a groan as she took the drink. She wasn't a big fan of this bubbly drink. It tasted weird, but if she had enough it made the fuzzies less than a whole lot more. Do we have to? The event? Yes. But if you want to go to bed early to get away from it all I can let Mum know. She'll understand. She let out a small sigh. Nah, I'll be okay. Just need to clear my head. He gave her a nod. Okay, well, don't push yourself, and if you need to escape for a bit just let us know. I won't say I understand what it is like, but I bet it's rough. She sipped at her drink and her nose scrunched up. She didn't like it. Thanks, but you should be inside. It's yours and Seek's night. We might be the stars, but you're a part of our family too. Don't forget that, Hinkoa. She blinked when his hand touched the side of her face. Don't be scared to be with us, Seeks won't bite. Naya haha maybe. I just need some air first. Go, I'll catch up, yep. She watched him eye her for a moment before she felt a wave of despair from him as he approached the doors. She held back a giggle. He was good at pretending to be happy, but she'd always be able to tell. Still, she couldn't wait to get out of this clingy dress. XXX. Sarah Fall watched as the young Phenex went to collect the Agar's heir. This would probably be her best chance to speak to them. Had she made a mistake? Yes. She didn't know that there would be fallen angels trying to get the jump on some devils out late that night. That wasn't something she could plan for, and she knew that she could have handled it better. Namely, sticking to her oath of staying out of clan politics instead of using the Azure to cover up the attack. She just didn't want the people to think she could make mistakes. They might think less of the Mao then, but this blew way out of her expectations. She agreed with the promotion to Duke. They had helped her settle a lot of foreign difficulties with their mercantile methods. Though she also knew that the family was much more akin to a mob family than anything else. Well, not really. Everything they did was legal. Maybe it was just the aggression that they held when securing trade contracts and property. Still, that did not help her situation, and she had the choice. She could play nice and things would go away, or she could cause a storm. The other Mao thought that particular train of thought was wrong, and she had to agree. Conversation with the yokai have just started up again thanks to Naruto Phenex and the Phenex giving them both financial assistance and medical supplies while the Phenex were in talks with the yokai. Everyone else, not so much. They also had the backing of the Agars and by proxy the Baal. It was difficult. So she had to apologize. The deal said tonight, or in a public venue aired to the underworld. She figured tonight would be better. It was a more relaxed setting and everyone was having fun. Tensions wouldn't be as high and everyone would be safe from retaliation tonight. Tomorrow would be a different story. Still, it didn't sit right. She was just doing what she thought was best, but it did go against her oaths. Sarah Fall didn't think that anyone would have taken them that seriously. She was seeing that was wrong. People took her words very, very seriously. She'd have to be much more careful about what she said in the future, what she swore to uphold and what integrity she promised to protect. Though the inquiry into her actions this past year had her worried. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. Then again, she hadn't thought that this would end up how it did. That is what bothered her. What were they looking for? Would they plant something if they didn't find it? Who was doing the inquiry? These were all questions that ran through her head as she slowly started to approach the young heirs. She took careful note that the cat, Hinkwa, was absent. Sona had told her that Rias complained about it being able to read her mind, and that was something she didn't want to tempt right now. Though, it wasn't until her father sat her down and asked who she would hold accountable if her position was reversed with those from the Phenex. From their viewpoint, she is the reason that the heirs were hurt. They were out on her orders after all. Their failure, which she also swept away mind you, was her fault as well. When Azazel had told her what happened from his viewpoint, she couldn't be too angry with them. They were fresh, barely out of school, with some of them still in it. She guessed that the reason she felt like it was shitty was because she was the one that would look shitty from it. She took a breath in and closed the final stretch of distance. They were the people of honor, so she gave them a slight bow. They returned a much deeper one. Lady Leviathan, it's an honor. Sigvera was always polite, but she wasn't fooled. Behind those pretty pink eyes of hers was the crafty mind of a shrewd diplomat. I'm glad to see the Mao out there mingling with others. I was a little worried people would be scared to approach you. Naruto's comment caught her off guard. He genuinely seemed happy to see them. What made it worse is she knew very little about how he thought. If it were Riser, she'd make a guess that he was trying to disarm her before they started talking. That might be the case here, but she couldn't be sure. She gave her magical girl smile and said, "It is a good excuse to get away from paperwork. The people are pretty nice too." She watched him relax a little, his shoulders losing some of their tension. That was good. A smile that was rough, but warm worked its way onto his face. When you're like this, it is easy to see why people call you the heart of the underworld. A compliment? It actually made her stir a little. It didn't sound like the regular whitewash she was used to getting. This wasn't good. Not for long from what I hear and see. You two had great control of the crowd tonight. Naruto gave a small laugh at her words before looking to Sigvera. That would be this wonderful woman beside me, and my mother. I just did what I was told. Sigvera quickly moved to interject. He is just being modest, Lady Leviathan. Without his ability to control his fire, the event could have been rather unclean. Sarah Fall shivered. That sounds like a lot of paperwork waiting to happen. Speaking of, she paused and eyed the two. Sigvera's eye muscles tensed slightly while Naruto still appeared relaxed. What the hell was wrong with this kid? Couldn't he understand the situation? I wanted to apologize. Sorry for Kuroka Tujo, I could have handled that better. There has been a lot of pressure on me because of that situation, but you two have been pretty quiet about it, and I thank you for that. Sigvera bowed her head. We thank you for your hard work and wish we had only been able to succeed with the given task. Outstanding circumstances aside, I believe we may have. Sarah Fall watched Naruto. He didn't seem to agree with Sigvera. That was something she'd file for later. Can I speak freely? That was a surprise, and not one just for her if Sigvera's rapt attention on him was to go by. Sure. Naruto gave her a nod and linked an arm around Sigvera's waist before looking over to someone and mouthing something to them. Come with me, he said softly to them. Neither of them argued and quickly walked with him and followed him outside. Sarah Fall narrowed her eyes on the white-haired cat girl she found waiting. Well, not really waiting, but leaning against one of the rails with a heavy look on her face. She watched the girl. It seemed she wasn't all there, talking to herself, scratching at her skin. Then her nose twitched and every strange sight vanished, and she turned and smiled, until they met eyes. Sarah Fall watched her face shift between fear and anger. It was something that the young Mao was not used to seeing. Then again, this was a situation that she was not used to. This conversation had gone off of any rails that may have been used to guide it, and now she was alone with the three people that nearly died. One of them did, under her orders. They were all so young. Guilt. Sarah Fall looked at the cat girl. What? You're feeling guilt? She looked between the three and saw an awkward expression on Naruto's face. Sigvera was watching everything intently. Sarah Fall wasn't sure who the biggest threat was anymore. Lady Leviathan, call me Sarah Fall. Sarah Fall, Naruto started again. I brought you out here so we could speak freely, but also so I could lend some more weight to my words, I guess. Hinkawa here can read emotions and minds if she focuses hard enough. The young Mao nodded. That was a scary power to have. There were of course rumors sprouting, but she could understand wanting to keep it a little under the wraps. It also seemed that not all of the information she got from gossip was wrong either. I see. I'm not quite sure I follow though. Naruto nodded. I think you were set up with the Kuroka Tuja situation. He paused and gave time for the information to sink in. That is a serious accusation. I know. That's why I wanted to do this privately. I also haven't shared these thoughts with Sikvera, so if she rips me apart mid-conversation, please forgive her. Sarah Fall watched him give the young heiress an awkward look. Yeah, not the wisest move, bud, but he'd learn, probably. Have you told your mother yet? No. Then I will forego maiming you for now, my dear. That was stressed heavily. Yeah, this boy was in trouble for sure. But Sarah Fall had to admit, he was pretty good at removing the tension in the air. She felt a little more at ease now. So, I guess I'll ask what makes you think I was set up. The Amy family is well known for their abuse of servants. I'm pretty sure you're aware of this. She nodded. It wasn't something she was proud to admit, but not everyone used the peerage system for the betterment of everyone around them. Some used it just for perverse fantasies. The Amy were among that group. While we were pursing Kuroka Tuju, myself and Hinkawa were able to capture her. This was news. She looked to Sigvera and saw her grip tightening on his arm. I do hope you plan to explain yourself? She wasn't bad. Hinkawa got out, drawing eyes to her. She's not like me. She has control. There was something that she really wanted to protect, so much so she was ready to die for it. So I let her go. Sarah Fall rose a brow at that. Sikvera was in a different boat though. You let her go? I did. Why? It was the question that Sarah Fall wanted to ask, but Sikvera was just faster to the point. Naruto sucked in a breath and looked at Sikvera. I already had some information going into the sortie. The Yukai had asked me to check on her. They thought something wasn't right. The Amy were picking up a lot of books relating to breeding and senjutsu, and alarms started to ring. So I was already looking at doing something, but the reason I let her go was pretty simple. I saw signs that her younger sister, Shiron Tuja, was being held prisoner and subjected to injections of senjutsu-based energy to try and awaken something similar to her sister. He paused and waited for Sarah Fall to nod before continuing. I investigated further. It would appear that only Makibuta Amy, the king of the peerage, was drawn into the fight. The rest were left alone. After private talks with them, they didn't agree what was happening and are willing to testify against the Amy if granted protection. But I believe that Makibuta was killed to protect Chiron, which I can understand the feeling, and if I was in her position I would do the same. So, you are condoning regicide? If you want to twist my words like that, Seeks, sure. But I know for a fact that I'd rather be a failure as a subject than a sibling. Sarah Fall could agree with that line of thought, but this situation was difficult. Responsibility to the state or to the family. That was always a difficult line to walk. And hypothetically, if I were to agree with you, you'd want me to revoke the upcoming bounty on Kuroka? Naruto shook his head, which confused her. Like I said, I believe you were being set up. There was only one viable escape route for Kuroka to take, and it just happened to have a band of fallen angels traveling through it. My mother always sighed that something is only a coincidence because you can't see how you're being played. Lady Phenex is wise, also ruthless, when it comes to politics. I take it that you have a plan then? I do. He paused and looked to Sigvera. I know you joked about it, but I would like to recruit Kuroka into my peerage while maintaining her bounty status, maybe even raise it a little, in order to find out who is trying to take down the Mao. Really? Sikvera questioned, to which he just nodded. Fine. But please do consult me about these things in the future, and not before a Mao. Thanks, Seeks, I knew you'd understand. Sarah Fall felt good that they weren't angry at each other, but this was still a difficult position to be in. You know that I can't allow that, right? Naruto gave a light cough. I know, but you said we were talking hypothetically. I know that a Mao could not sign off on something like this, at least not publicly. But you have to admit, if the bad guys were to hear of, let's say, an SS rank stray devil, they'd probably try to recruit it. Hypothetically, of course. Sarah Fall had to admit, she wasn't really in any danger here. Everything that was said was just theory, no actual talk of action here. Well, at least she could deny that there was, as she was sure they would. Hypothetically, it is a decent plan. There are some rough edges to work out, like how would you ensure she stays loyal? It appears that we wouldn't have to. Sibling over subject. I heard that Shiron Tuja was found and taken captive. I could promise her safety in the Phenex household where she would have a constant security detail, but still be able to live a relatively normal life. Sarah Fall frowned. There is a problem with that hypothetical. Sirzex saw that some of the guards were getting antsy, and is keeping her captive in the Gremory household. Rias? Sigvera asked, to which Sarah Fall gave a slight nod. Of course it is. That's even better. All the girls turned to face him. I would like to know what you mean by that, Naruto. The blonde wasted no time in replying to his stern wife. Seeks, you've made it pretty clear that you don't want Rias to swap her contract to me, right? She nodded. Well, you could put the stipulation that you will consider her appeal favorably if the Gremory family is able to care for and protect the Nekishu in their care, as it would be in poor taste for the Phenex, who are working on an alliance with the yokai, to be in bed with someone that can't treat them well. This would allow us to wash our hands of having her on our person constantly, but still being able to keep a close eye on her. Sarah Fall had to admit it was decent. Definitely showed signs of being put together quickly, but those could be hashed out. She eyed the blonde Phenex. They'd probably get along fine, so long as she didn't lose her seat as Mao. This is all hypothetical, But it isn't going to do much good talking about this if I lose my seat as Mao because of this inquiry, will it? She gauged their reaction. Sikvera seemed to know what was going on, but Naruto just shrugged. No big, I'll tell my mother, and that'll be the end of it really. Really? Yeah. The Phenex just want the Mao to pull their weight. No offense, but the majority of you guys have been slacking lately. Some taken. I didn't say you. What? There's something to feel guilty over. Nope, no comment. Seraphol shared a look with Naruto before they both gave a small laugh. So, we good? He asked, and she gave a nod. Cool, If you're not busy the day after next, around lunchtime, wanna meet up in Kyoto? Confusion quickly flooded her. Was he? No, but maybe? Are you asking me out? She watched Sikvera sigh and rub at her temples. I do not believe that is his intention. We have a meeting with the Yokai's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Exactly. I figured you could come along and open a direct dialogue. It might help speed some things along. Oh, of course that's what it was. That makes sense. You have my thanks and I'll see about clearing my schedule. Make sure you do. We can finish our hypothetical conversation then. Seraphol rose a brow at the young Phenex. What, you think I'd let Kuroka go without having a way of tracking her? Smart, I assume I'd be given that location if things took a turn for the worse? Seraphol questioned. We'll never know now. He answered back with a smile. Oh, he was fun. Much more fun than most of the other heirs and heiresses she had to deal with. This could be an interesting partnership of sorts. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time tonight. I'll be seeing you both soon enough. See ya, Seraphol. Please forgive him, Lady Leviathan. We both wish you a good evening. Seraphol had a small laugh, spared a look at the quiet Hinkawa who was watching her intently, before heading inside. Rovo was standing by the door and opened it as she approached. I trust you all had a good conversation? It was quite pleasant. Thank you for asking. Now I think I might need to speak to the other Mao before I retire for the night. She nodded to the older Phenex brother before heading back in. Ugh, now she had to be all prim and proper again. She kinda missed talking to the kids already. XXX, Naruto stretched himself out. The rest of the ball had gone well. He had been forced to dance so much that he was sure his healing factor kicked in at some point to fix his feet up, but it was fine. He had also endured the seething gaze of Sikvera as just about every heiress in attendance wanted to dance with one of the three brothers. He looked over to Six. Her and Hinkawa had passed out leaning against one another on some chairs in the corner of the room with Ravel. The three had been busy tonight, and it seemed to have worn them out completely. I see someone talk to a few very important people tonight, Ravel mused. Naruto turned and gave him a sly smile. Don't think I didn't see the way that some of those devils were trying to get your attention, Ravel. Or the group that dragged Riser over to the corner to recite their poetry. Please don't remind me. I thought it was sweet. They rhymed Riser with minds of. Naruto gave a shrug. I mean, it works, yes, but the rest of the sentence is what is disturbing. The older brothers shared a laugh before Riser slowly joined in. It wasn't long before their parents were done seeing the final guests off, Lord and Lady Agars, who gave their daughter a soft kiss goodnight. Lord and Lady Phenex slowly approached the trio, with Riser and Ruvel having sent their peerages to bed shortly before the end of the night as everyone was starting to grow tired. You three certainly appear to have enjoyed yourselves? Raven started with a sly smile on her face. Ruvel threw an arm over Naruto's shoulder. Well, apart from Riser's group of poetic fangirls, it would appear that our Naruto here got some solo time with Lady Leviathan. Seeing his mother raise her brows, Naruto let out a sigh. It was not solo. Hinkawa and Six were there, but long and short we came to some agreements. You are probably not going to like all of them, but it works out for what I want to do and what works best for us financially, and politically if we don't go belly up, and that is, the removal of the corruption from the underworld. Remember how I said that the sortie for Kuroka didn't feel right? He saw his mother nod and press forward, while I explained all of my thoughts to Seraphol, and she agrees. She will deny and overlook some of the actions that I'll be taking in the next couple of days. In return, the inquiry will find nothing on her worth reporting, but if you were to keep any incriminating stuff, I said nothing about that. She'll also be using a contact of mine to help establish a talking point with the yokai while I attempt to plant a spy in a criminal organization, which she will try to protect and back up the claims regarding my spy's origins. He saw his mother eye him for a moment. No paper, no contract. I thought it was too risky. Smart. This could ruin you both. I'll be cluing the yokai in on it as well. Together, from 3 sides, we should be able to cover all our bases. I'll just need to draft up what I'm going to say to sway them. This spy of yours? Naruto knew this was coming. Kuroka Tuju. He didn't need to look at Riser to know he had a mile-wide grin. Can you trust her? I believe so. She chose sibling over subject. Just like you taught us. He looked at his mother, who appeared to be in thought for a moment before slowly nodding. I will make the preparations then. Also, what is this I hear about the Gremry trying to change a contract? I take it I'm not good enough now that everyone knows Naruto is the Azure? Riser spoke up. There was a small bit of disdain in his voice. Sikvera thinks it might just be a tantrum from Rias that her parents are acting on. Which brings us back to Kuroka. Rias has the girl's younger sister. Sirzex was ahead of me on that, but it works in our favor. I already brought it up with Sigvera and Serafal. It will allow us to make sure she is kept safe, out of harm's way, and most of all, not on our hands. I mentioned to Six that she could bring up looking favorable on the change of contract if Rias could look after and protect the Nekashu for a number of years to go in line with our favorable position with the yokai so as to not reflect poorly on us. He saw his brothers nod in line with his thoughts while Raven still appeared to be in thought. Good, that gives me enough to work with. I will speak with Sikvera when she is free and we will find a way to stall them and make this work in your favor. Also, I'm not a fan of them breaking a contract with my younger brother. Make them work for it. Naruto watched their mother look over the brothers before sighing to herself. I want a full explanation before you leave for Kyoto. I guess I got what I sought when I taught you to rely on one another. Though hell help whichever devil tries to claim your baby sister. I cannot imagine what torture you boys will put them through. The brothers all took a pensive stance as they circled around each other. So, how are my boys doing tonight? Plotting the death of Ravel's first boyfriend. The three brothers responded without looking up. Tears could help prolong it. No, we'd be wasting money. I can just heal the damage. Slow burn with ice? Ow, nasty. I like it. After a moment or two they pulled away and looked at their nervous father and their nodding mother. We've got a plan, they answered in unison. That's great. It sounds like you all had a good night? Riser has a poetry fan club. Rovo got hit on by some old hag. Naruto seduced a Mao. Rovan looked at the three who glared daggers at each other before laughing. They are your boys, Raven. Indeed they are, dear. Now excuse me, but boys, I believe you have people waiting on you. Riser and Rovo both nodded and teleported away, leaving Naruto standing there looking at his predicament. How was he meant to get them both back at the same time? He knew if he moved either one the other would probably wake up. Whichever one woke up and wasn't being carried was going to be angry. Rovan walked up and rested a hand on his shoulder. If only you could be in two places at once, huh? Naruto froze. He'd been in a position like this before. It was a long shot, like really long, but it was worth a shot. He brought his hands together and focused his demonic power. Split evenly 4 ways, taking his shape, giving it form and consciousness. It was possible, complicated but possible. Scrap it, for was too much, he'd just go for one. He just needed one. There was a sudden shift in his gut, and he creaked an eye open to see a second him standing by his side checking themselves over. Well shit, the 3 males said, Naruto's father included. Hey Dad, can you go over there with me and tell them something? Rovan gave him a curious look before doing as asked. He then watched as his son vanished in a pyre of fire before the original crouched down and rubbed his head. Damn, it hurt like a bitch. It was only a few seconds, but fuck. Experiencing nearly everything twice at a slightly different angle. He wondered how the dream him did it so well. As for what his father said, apparently his mother had gushed over Seeks calling her mother earlier. That was good to know. It was always difficult to tell if Raven actually liked someone that wasn't her child. So, what was the point of that? Naruto slowly stood up and made another clone. He could feel his reserves getting low. After his showmanship earlier and the long night they were already a little tapped, but this was very, very draining. Creating them, that is, maintaining them was nothing. It was something from a dream. When the clone dispels, I learn everything it did. It's not up to the level from the dream, as I think I could only have 4, at least at the moment, but they'd all be pretty weak. The dream me used hundreds at a time. Still, it solves the lesson issue. No tears needed, Mum. We are upping my training though, using these guys for lessons and control while I do the sparing. Raven eyed him tensely. He knew what she was looking for, but he didn't have any way to show her. Very well. But for now, you need to go to bed, and take those 2 with you. Whatever you do, we do not wish to hear it. Mom, come on. But his words fell on deaf ears as his parents walked away after picking up Ravel. That left him alone with probably his 2 biggest sources of emotional conflict. Him and the clone moved forward and picked them up bridal style. The halls were quiet, and it was Hinkua that stirred first in the clone's arms. She looked at him and then the clone before curling back up and going to sleep. Sometimes he wondered what exactly went through her head. She would just accept whatever he did without question. She never argued, even when it came to at least starting the day clothed or being clothed in public areas. Then again, he didn't really question anything she did apart from the clothes. That was a common question. Still, she had died on his watch. That was unacceptable. Everyone was so quick to tell him that there was nothing he could have done, but there was. They could have captured Kuroka and fled before the Fallen got there. They could have stayed together. He could have finished off glasses. He should have. He knew he wouldn't make that mistake again. He would make sure his opponent was fully subdued before moving on. The thing is, she did not resent him one bit for letting her die. If there was anger, even a tiny flicker, he would understand. But no, she was fine with it. She was actually partly happy it happened, and that made him feel sick and mad. Then he had Seeks. She questioned nearly everything he did. Not out of malice, at least from what he could tell. Well, that again was mostly. Peerage members always seemed to be a heated topic, so did yokai and marriages. That he understood now, and ran most things by her. No, he didn't. He hardly ran anything by her first. Now thinking on it, He deserved her being angry so often. Regardless, he was getting off topic. Most of her questions were just to understand his thought process and how he got there. At least that's how it appeared to him. She had gotten seriously hurt because of him as well. It was because of these two that he was pushing himself so hard. He could still picture the fallen holding a limp Sikvera in his arms. It was nearly enough to make him give in to that fire inside. He knew the fire was dangerous. He wasn't sure how he knew it, he just did. But it had also saved Sik's. It was why she was alive. He needed to be better. Thankfully though, Sikvera didn't stir until he reached his room. She reached up and touched his face as he opened the door, and the clone filed in behind him. Sik's was placed gently on the bed, and Hinkua into her favorite pile of clothes. Sik sat up and looked at him. Help me get undressed. He let out a tired sigh. Siks, you don't have to, you're half asleep. I am not sleeping in this dress. I have something else to change into. Now she was being stubborn. He moved forward and she stuck her arms out. Inwardly sighing, he picked her up and turned her around to pull the zipper down. Is that good? Now turn around. With her now sorted, he moved into his closet and got changed, putting this outfit away, hopefully never needing to wear it again, before putting on a pair of light tracksuit pants. He waited and heard her unzip a bag before zipping it back up again and took that as his cue to leave. He wasn't sure what he expected Sikvera's nightwear to be, but this wasn't it. A pair of cloth shorts that barely came to mid-thigh, only just able to be seen under the stupidly large t-shirt of a Gundam, RX-0 if he was correct, which he wasn't sure at this point. They had all started to look the same. Her long hair though was pulled up into a bun on the back of her head. She stared at him with half-lidded eyes before crawling onto the bed and lightly patting next to her. Tired as he might be, he wasn't about to refuse. The clone dispelled and he got the memories of carrying Hinkua back and the amount she squirmed on the trip. He watched Six take her glasses off and put them on the nearby table. He didn't know why she insisted on wearing them. Her vision was perfect. He figured it must be a look she was going for. He heard her let out a sigh before she shifted closer, pressing her butt against him. There is no point in doing this if you're on the other side of the bed. He snaked an arm around her waist and shifted behind her, resting his face near her neck. I think I might love you, Six. He felt her stiffen before she wove her fingers into the hand at her waist. You'd better, because I love you, you buffoon. She drew his arm up under her shirt. It was slow, tense, before she finally placed his hand on her breast. He gave it a testing squeeze. They were much softer than he thought they'd be. He tested the other one, just to make sure, before she grabbed his hand again and started dragging it down. They slipped under the line of her shorts. There was nothing else. He could practically feel her smiling at his nervousness. She slowly drew his hand back out from her shorts after he had felt around a bit, and more than confirmed what he needed to. Six rolled over and faced him. A strange expression on her face. Better than your imagination? Naruto took a breath in. It was full of her scent. This close, he couldn't help it. I don't know, I didn't get a good look. Ah, well, at least one part is honest. Now which side do you want to cuddle, my butt or my face? He leaned in and pressed his lips against hers. She stiffed. He was about to pull away before he felt her push back against, leaning into it as her arms snaked around his neck. He heard her breath, he felt her heat, her heart. The way her fingers twirled into his hair, and the way her back arched into him. All of these tiny sensations amplified by the darkness, the proximity. Then, she bit him. He pulled back and blinked as she held his lip with a wide smile. After a moment she let go. You didn't answer my question. He blinked at her a few times. That was my answer. I must have missed it. Can you give it again? Naruto let out a small laugh. This woman might just be the death of him.